Chapter 1259. Chapter 1259. Chapter 1259. Provoked to anger, senior spirit void. Danguzi, I'll leave those two rank 9 mid-mortal sovereigns to you. Ignoring the corpse puppet's cold words, Ningyu began assigning tasks. Sword of Evil, Palace Master Centauria. I'll leave the remaining 8th and 7th grade human sovereigns to you. With a cold gaze, Ningyu stared at the 26th grade sovereigns and said, "Leave these trash to me." "What? How dare you call me trash? A mere middle phase, 5th grade sovereign dares to be so arrogant? Looks like I'll have to teach you guys a lesson. Attack. Everyone attack together. Kill him." Ningyu's unbridled words had infuriated many 6th grade sovereigns. They were all top geniuses in the corpse sect, so when had they ever been bullied like this? Under their rage, all the 6th grade sovereigns summoned their magical treasures and flying swords, eager to kill Ningyu. Not bad, not bad. You have character. While everyone was getting restless, the corpse puppet did not make a move. Instead, it looked at Ningyu with interest and said, "It would be a pity to kill someone like you. Let's refine you into a corpse puppet." "Xiao." As she spoke, Shi Xiao held the serious sword in her hand and dashed forward. Shi Xiao did not forget his purpose of coming here, which was to kill Ningyu. As long as he could kill Ningyu, everything would be fine. The higher-ups of the corpse sect would even reward him with the heavenly wolf sword. If they failed, what awaited them would be endless fury. Therefore, Shi Xiao did not hold back with this move. She used all of her strength. His essence, Qi, poured into the celestial wolf sword, and immediately, the celestial wolf sword shone brightly, becoming several times larger. "Kill him." Holding the celestial wolf sword, the corpse puppet slashed out a sword light in the air. Roar! A huge wolf head appeared on the celestial wolf sword, roaring as it charged at Ningyu. Not good. It's the Phantom of the Sky Wolf. Seeing the giant wolf head charging at Ningyu, Venerable Spirit Void and Pil Guzi's expressions changed, and they wanted to go help. "Damned old man, your opponents are us." Before Revered Spirit Void and Danguzi could help, they were stopped by 2 rank 9 mid-human sovereigns. At first, Lord Spirit Void and Pil Guzi had wanted to fight with all their might to force back the rank 9 mid-human sovereign. As soon as they made their move, the other 4 early-stage 9th grade human supremes joined the battle, forcing them to retreat again and again. Although Venerable Spirit Void was a mid-rank 9 mortal sovereign, Danguzi was only an early-rank 9 mortal sovereign. His power was limited. If they joined forces, they could confront 2 middle-phase 9th grade sovereigns. But with the addition of 4 initial-phase 9th grade sovereigns, the pressure on Venerable Spirit Su and the rest increased, and they nearly lost their heads a few times. Red Demon Sword, destroy all forms, open. Seeing that the wolf head was about to reach him, Ningyu hastily took out the Red Demon Sword and slashed at the wolf head. "Huh? You want to use an ordinary flying sword to cut my sky wolf phantom? You're simply fucking hell." The corner of Shi Xiao's mouth rose into a faint smile, as if she could already see Ningyu dying to the sky wolf phantom. However, Shi Xiao's words hadn't finished resounding through the air when she stopped abruptly. Crack! Shi Xiao noticed that the red flying sword in Ningyu's hand had pierced straight into the head of the sky wolf phantom. In the next instant, the phantom's head split apart. Pucci! The terrifying backlash sent the corpse puppet flying several meters away. Her heart sank to the bottom of the valley. What flying sword is this? It's so powerful. Shi Xiao stood up with great difficulty, her face filled with rage. "Ningyu, you've completely angered me. No one in the world can save you." "How noisy." With a smear of disdain, Ningyu flicked his storage ring, and a cold light shot out from it. Swish! Swish! The cold light was swift, and in the blink of an eye, it had arrived before Shi Xiao. Crack! The cold light clenched her right fist and smashed into Shi Xiao's chest. A crisp sound rang out. At least 3 of Shi Xiao's ribs were broken, and she spurted out a mouthful of blood. What the hell is this? How can it be so powerful? Shi Xiao hurriedly used a secret technique to reconnect the ribs on her chest. In Shi Xiao's view, the reason why Ningyu could break the Sky Wolf Phantom was purely due to luck, and there was nothing to be afraid of. The only thing that shocked Shi Xiao was the figure that appeared afterwards. Jin 2. At this critical moment, Ningyu took out Jin 2 without holding back. Shi Xiao was a late-phase 9th grade sovereign, and on Ningyu's side, only Jin 2 could be his opponent. Ningyu understood the principle of capturing the leader first, so he decided to join forces with Jin 2 to capture Shi Xiao. Ah! The roars coming from the mouth of the corpse puppet were extremely sinister. Ningyu, I'm going to tear you to pieces today. After roaring, Shi Xiao charged at Ningyu with the Sky Wolf sword in her hand. Let's attack too. Seeing Shi Xiao attack, the rest of the cultivators all moved out. For a moment, the area was filled with golden light, and all kinds of spells were cast. Standing in the center of the battlefield, especially facing the most powerful corpse puppet of the Corpsine sect, Ningyu felt the pressure. If it wasn't for Jin 2's help, Ningyu would have already been killed by Shi Xiao. We can't continue like this, Ningyu said in a deep voice while relying on Jin 2 to fight Shi Xiao. Although Shi Xiao's physical strength was not as good as Jin 2's, her spells and martial skills far surpassed Jin 2's. According to Ningyu's guess, Shi Xiao's real battle strength was far higher than the evil Dragon Valley Masters. I can't fight her head-on for now. Ningyu's expression was extremely solemn. An expert at Shi Xiao's level with the top-grade Emperor Sky Wolf sword was enough to reach the pinnacle of battle strength. Fighting Shi Xiao was no different from asking a tiger for its hide. There was bound to be no good result. I'll break your wings first. Ningyu rolled his eyes and temporarily left Shi Xiao to Jin 2's day. As for himself, he joined the other side of the battlefield. 10,000 ghosts, holy flag. Ningyu didn't want to waste even the slightest bit of time. Before he even reached Supremacy Spirit Void and Danguzi, he took out the 10,000 ghosts holy flag and smashed it toward an early rank 9 human sovereign. Insignificant skill. It was obvious that this early 9th grade human supreme didn't take Ningyu seriously. Curling his lips in disdain, this late-stage 9th grade human supreme abandoned Sage Spirit Su and Danguzi to attack Ningyu. There's a path to heaven, but you refuse to take it. There's no door to hell, but you barge in. Looking at the incoming early-stage 9th grade human supreme, the corner of Ningyu's mouth rose. He raised his palm and smashed it forward. Crack! An extremely clear muffled sound resounded in the area. Ningyu rubbed his slightly swollen fist and said angrily, "What a cheap wretch. How can it be so hard?" Puffed. Being mocked by Ningyu in front of so many people, the early-stage 9th grade human supreme couldn't help but spit out a mouthful of blood. You even broke a few of my ribs, and you say my bones are hard? The early-stage 9th grade human supreme was furious. He wasn't as tough as Shi Xiao, who could use a secret technique to reconnect his broken ribs. Chapter 1260. Retreat. Ningyu, you've completely infuriated me. I'm going to chop you into pieces. The early-stage 9th grade human supreme was so angry that his lungs were about to explode. He, an early-stage 9th grade human supreme, had actually lost to a mid-stage 5th grade human supreme, and it was a crushing defeat at that. Where would he put his face if word of this got out? Therefore, in the heart of this initial 9th grade human supreme being, he was determined to kill Ningyu even if he had to pay the price of blood. Noisy. Ningyu wouldn't show any mercy. If you want to kill me, then you should be prepared to be killed. Recalling the myriad ghost flag, Ningyu injected the Yuan Qi in his sea of consciousness into it and threw it out again. Roar. Wherever the myriad ghost flag passed, the sky changed color and the wind and clouds gathered. All sorts of screams came from the myriad ghost flag. What the hell is that? Hearing these voices, the 9th grade initial human supreme felt his hair stand on end, and he shuddered in fear. It's not a ghost. It's something that will take your life. Ningyu's words were like the god of death, ringing in the early-stage 9th grade human supreme's ears. Oh no! Suddenly, the eyes of the 9th grade initial human sovereign shrank. He stomped on the ground and retreated rapidly. However, it was already too late for this initial phase ninth grade human supreme being to retreat. Whoosh! A cold light shot out from the myriad ghosts flag and penetrated the early stage ninth grade human supreme's mind. Rumble. Not long after, the early stage ninth grade human supreme's body swelled up and exploded. Swish! The self-destruction of the early stage ninth grade human supreme silenced the entire area. Both sides looked at Ningyu in the middle of the battlefield and the scattered flesh fragments in front of him. Their eyes almost fell out of their sockets, especially the cultivators of the corpse insect. Their pupils shrank and their hair stood on end. What kind of monster was Ningyu? How could he get rid of an early stage ninth grade human supreme so quickly? On the surface, Ningyu didn't seem to have used his full strength. Ningyu, good job. The Dark Emperor patted Ningyu's shoulder and said loudly. The Dark Emperor had advanced to the early stage 4th grade supreme martial artist. On top of that, he was one of the 5 absolute geniuses and possessed the bloodline of the purple gold sky devouring dog. Just now, he had held up a 9th grade initial stage human sovereign. Although he didn't manage to kill him, everyone knew that it was only a matter of time before that 9th grade initial stage human sovereign was killed. This is too much. On the corpse insect side, a 9th grade intermediate human supreme said coldly. This 9th grade intermediate human supreme was called Gang, the second strongest expert of the Corpsine sect. The Corpsine sect's experts weren't fools. The moment they saw Sage Spirit Su escape, they reacted and took out their magic treasures to attack the exit of the Transverse Canyon. Die. However, Ningyu had been waiting for this moment. He repeatedly waved the Red Devil Sword, blocking many fatal attacks for Sage Spirit Su and the others. With Ningyu blocking them, Sage Spirit Su and the others quickly disappeared from everyone's sight. Woof woof. What surprised Ningyu was that the Dark Emperor didn't escape with Sage Spirit Su and the others. Instead, he sneaked back. Crack! The Dark Emperor sneakily took advantage of a corpse insect's mid-rank 9 human sovereign not paying attention to bite him. His sharp teeth bit into the middle rank 9 human sovereign's shoulder and directly bit off a large chunk of flesh. Pa pa pa. As soon as he bit off the flesh, the Dark Emperor spat it out. What kind of nonsense is this? Don't the people of the corpse insect bathe? It's as uncomfortable as eating shit. The Dark Emperor rolled his eyes and looked at the middle rank 9 human sovereign with disdain. His expression was as annoying as it could get. The middle rank 9 human sovereign who had his flesh bitten off by the Dark Emperor let out a hysterical roar. Shameful. This was truly shameful. It was one thing for the flesh on his shoulder to be bitten off, but that damn dog actually dared to insult him in front of so many people. He really couldn't bear it. There was no need to bear it anymore. Chapter 1261. Chapter 1261. Chapter 1261 Mobilize the power of the bloodline, Dark Emperor. Let us fight to our heart's content today. Looking at the incoming 9th grade middle human sovereign, Ningyu placed the red demon sword before his chest as a deafening roar resounded throughout the canyon. Fight to your heart's content. I'm going to chop you into minced meat and feed you to the dogs. Corpse Biao was so angry that his teeth chattered. This was intolerable. No matter what, he was going to capture Ningyu, cut him into pieces, and feed him to the dogs. Elder Corpse Puppet, I'll have to trouble you to suppress Jean and leave these 2 bastards to me. Corpse Biao didn't let his hatred get to his head. He first spoke to the Corpse Puppet before charging at Ningyu. In Corpse Tiger's heart, Jean 2 was the strongest among Ningyu's subordinates. Apart from Jean 2, Ningyu's fighting strength was also insignificant. Now that he had lost the Jean band, killing Ningyu would be as easy as blowing off dust. Go. Stop Jean and Sure Xiao controlled the puppet to fight Jean Tuesday. As for Sure Xiao, she crossed her arms in front of her chest and watched the battle between Ningyu and Corpse Biao with interest. She did not take any action. After summoning the fierce beast puppet, the corpse puppet was confident and no longer worried that Ningyu would escape. The reason why Shi Xiao didn't attack immediately was that he wanted to test out Ning Yu's strongest combat power and see if Ning Yu was suitable to be refined into a puppet. Once he found out Ning Yu's true battle prowess, he would kill him with lightning speed. You go too. To be on the safe side, Shi Xiao said to Shi Gang, don't hurt Ning Yu. Also, try to force Ning Yu to use all his trump cards. Understood. In fact, Shi Gang had long since wanted to make a move, but he couldn't because Shi Xiao hadn't said anything. How could he not be excited now that the corpse puppet had clearly indicated for him to take action? With both feet touching the ground, Shi Gang dashed out in an instant. Rumble. In midair, Ning Yu and the Dark Emperor were able to fight evenly against the corpse tiger if they joined forces. However, everything changed when Shi Gang joined the battle. Ning Yu and the Dark Emperor were completely suppressed. Although Ning Yu was charging left and right with a red demon sword in his hand, and was even constantly using the 10,000 spirits sacred flag. Anyone with a discerning eye could tell that it was only a matter of time before Ning Yu and the Dark Emperor were defeated. Damn dog, I'm going to stew you whole later. Corpse Tiger's main target was the Dark Emperor. Although the wound on his shoulder had already been healed by his powerful blood chi, it would definitely leave a scar. Corpse Fiend would never forget this grudge. Only by eating the Dark Emperor could he resolve the hatred in his heart. Stinking reptile, I'm going to bite your other shoulder off. The Dark Emperor touched his sore spot, causing Corpse Biao to stomp his feet in anger. On the other side of the battlefield, Ning Yu was completely suppressed by Corpse Gang. He was so suppressed that he could barely breathe. This won't do. I can only make my move in another 10 minutes. Ning Yu appeared to be very weak and could be killed by Corpse Gang at any time. Something doesn't seem right. Corpse Puppet was a little puzzled by Ning Yu's state. How powerful was Corpse Puppet's perception? He discovered that Ning Yu was on the verge of being killed a few times, but in the end, he would explode with astonishing battle strength and avoid a fatal blow. It was obvious that Ning Yu's true battle strength was completely different from what he was currently displaying. Not good. Another 5 minutes passed before Corpse Puppet finally reacted. Corpse Gang, Corpse Biao, retreat quickly. Corpse Puppet roared. Corpse Puppet's roar caused Corpse Gang and Corpse Biao to be very puzzled. They were fighting well and had the upper hand. Why was Corpse Puppet telling them to retreat? However, Shi Gang and Corpse Biao's momentary days made them pay a bloody price. Have you noticed? Since you've noticed, then all of you must die today. The corners of Ning Yu's lips curled up as his aura suddenly strengthened. In the air, Ning Yu opened his mouth, and all the surrounding Yuan Qi flew towards him, entering his stomach. At the same time, Ning Yu's body glowed with golden light, hovering in the air like a golden god of war. Whoosh! A pair of wings grew on the Dark Emperor's back, enlarging his body by several times. Carrying Ning Yu, he charged at Corpse Biao. Crack! Wherever Ning Yu and the Dark Emperor passed, the wind and clouds changed colors and the air retreated. The punch landed squarely on Corpse Biao's heart. The terrifying force from the heart caused Corpse Biao's pupils to constrict. His entire body was sent flying, crashing into the stone walls on both sides of the ravine. Puffed. Corpse Biao clutched at his heart, panting heavily. Heaven-defying indeed. Ning Yu revealed an astonished expression when he saw Corpse Biao's actions. Corpse Biao's heart had been pierced by him, but he had not been killed immediately. This had exceeded his expectations. One had to know that Corpse Biao's heart was not on the right side, but on the left. Why were you so ruthless? Corpse Biao pointed at Ning Yu with his right hand and roared with the last bit of his strength. I should have... With his heart shattered, Corpse Biao vomited a mouthful of blood before he could finish his words and collapsed to the ground. At this moment, a mid-stage 9th grade human supreme, Corpse Biao, had died in battle. Rumble. Corpse Biao's death caused a huge uproar in the area. Many corpse insect cultivators retreated, not daring to approach Ning Yu. Corpse Biao was a mid-stage 9th grade human supreme, the third strongest expert on their side. Even Corpse Biao had been easily killed, let alone them. Divine War Body. Corpse Biao's expression was extremely ugly. He had not expected that Ning Yu, whom he had regarded as a dead man, would actually possess the divine war body. Moreover, from the golden light emitting from Ningyu's body, Corpse Biao deduced that Ningyu possessed the complete bloodline of the divine war body. Ningyu, since you have the divine war body, why did you only reveal it now? Corpse Biao's expression was gloomy as he said coldly. Corpse Biao could clearly see a ball of golden blood flowing continuously from Ningyu's heart to every corner of his body. The divine war body was indeed terrifying. Although Corpse Biao was a late-stage 9th-grade human supreme and had ferocious beast puppets by his side, he still felt great pressure when facing the complete bloodline of the divine war body. I know, Corpse Biao seemed to be talking to himself. You're stalling for time because you've just awakened the divine war body bloodline and cannot properly mobilize the power of the bloodline in your body. Suddenly, Corpse Biao came to a realization. At the same time, Corpse Biao was extremely vexed. If not for his stupidity, Corpse Biao would not have been killed and the others would not have escaped. That's right, I'm indeed stalling for time. Ningyu stared straight at Corpse Biao and said in a low voice, if you had attacked me earlier, I would definitely have lost. But unfortunately, because of your stupidity, I am able to mobilize the power of the bloodline to fight well. Ha ha ha. Corpse Biao threw his head back and laughed maniacally. Don't think that I don't know that with your mid-stage 5th-grade human supreme cultivation, you can only mobilize the power of the bloodline in your body for half an hour at most. In other words, you will be extremely weak after half an hour. Half an hour is more than enough to kill all of you. Ningyu's gaze swept across everyone before he shot out explosively. Chapter 1262. 3 regions, how dare you? Seeing Ningyu charging towards Gang, Xiao raged. He had brought 2 intermediate-grade, 9 human sovereigns with him this time, Gang and Biao. Now that Biao had been mercilessly killed, if Gang was also killed, he would be punished everywhere, even if he returned to the Corpsine sect. Therefore, in Zhao's heart, he had to protect Gang no matter what. Wouldn't I lose face if I don't dare, just because you say so? Faint words came from Ningyu's mouth, as Ningyu's speed increased, and he appeared before Gang in the blink of an eye. Golden light burst out from his body as Ningyu clenched his right fist and punched toward Gang. At the critical moment, Gang gathered all the energy in his knowledge, into his arms, and used them to block his chest. Crack! The fist and arm collided, and Gang felt a terrifying force coming from his arm. Puffed! The terrifying force sent Gang flying back, and blood spewed from his mouth, dyeing the sky red. Go! We must kill Ningyu no matter what. Xiao roared like a madman. At the same time, Xiao controlled the ferocious beast puppet to charge at Ningyu, trying to restrain Ningyu with it. Boom! The ferocious beast puppet was indeed powerful. In just one move, it had forced Ningyu back. One must know that Ningyu had mobilized the bloodline power of the war god physique. Those who block me will die. Sinister words came from Ningyu's mouth as Ningyu's aura soared once again. Everyone, let's attack together and kill him. Ningyu's actions made Xiao nervous. Right now, Ningyu was like a war god that could contend with the ferocious beast puppet. If Ningyu's aura soared again, the consequences would be unimaginable. At that time, aside from the ferocious beast puppet, even he would die here. Russell, the experts of the Corpsine sect were all ruthless characters. They knew that today was a moment of life and death, so they unleashed their trump cards one after another. They wanted to kill Ningyu before his aura reached its peak. At this moment, no one dared to underestimate Ningyu or the god of war physique. The power of the divine war body had already penetrated deep into their hearts, causing them to tremble. Once Ningyu's war god body, which possessed 100% bloodline power, matured, the consequences would be unimaginable. Even the corpse sect might be uprooted. Damn it! Why didn't anyone tell me that Ningyu has the war god body? The corpse hag roared as it fought. He was proud of his strength and had boasted before he came that he would definitely kill Ningyu. Unexpectedly, something went wrong along the way. Ningyu had the war god body, and the power of his bloodline was extremely rich. Kill Ningyu and obtain the bloodline of the war god body. The corpse hag's eyes became colder and colder. The celestial wolf sword in its hand waved repeatedly, interweaving several silver-white rays of light, like a giant net, pressing down on Ningyu. "Break!" Ningyu pointed out with a finger. Suddenly, the wind and clouds changed color. A golden cold light flew across the sky and appeared in front of the giant net in the blink of an eye. Crack! Wherever the golden cold light passed, the sky-high net would split open, and a huge gap would appear. The cold light passed through the gap and bombarded Corpse Gang. "How dare you!" Everything happened so fast that Corpse Hag didn't have time to react. The golden cold light hit Corpse Gang's heart. Poochie! The same situation happened again. The power of the golden cold light was obviously much stronger than the power of Ningyu's fist. Ningyu's fist could kill Corpse Biao, so naturally, the golden cold light could kill Corpse Gang. In an instant, Corpse Gang's heart was pierced and his whole body exploded. Ah! As soon as Jun died, Corpse Hag let out a hysterical roar. In less than 3 minutes, the 2 ninth-grade intermediate human supremes he brought with him were all killed. Anger filled Corpse Hag's chest. Russell, Ningyu was too powerful. He was so powerful that many Corpse-Een sect experts retreated, not daring to face Ningyu. In the air, Ningyu's body emitted a golden light, like a golden god of war floating in the air, shocking everyone. On Ningyu's left, the Dark Emperor's hair stood on end and his tail swayed in the wind. Looking closely, he was actually absorbing the golden light emitted from Ningyu's body. The blood chi of the god of war, overflowing from Ningyu's body, was a great supplement to the Dark Emperor. It could make his mind excited and his battle strength soar. On Ningyu's right, Jin Tu's face was expressionless, and his eyes were calm. "What are you doing? Are you trying to rebel? Go. Corpse Hag was completely enraged. The Corpse-Een sect experts he brought with him were actually afraid of Ningyu's strength, so they all retreated. This made him feel ashamed. Crack! Corpse Hag, who was in a state of rage, flicked his fingers and 2 cold lights flew out. The cold lights turned into sharp swords and directly cut off the heads of 2 6th-grade human supremes. Rumble! Corpse Hag's powerful attack had a great effect. The remaining Corpse-Een sect experts all stopped and didn't dare to take half a step back. Although Corpse Hag suffered a great loss in the battle with Ningyu, his cultivation was still at the late-stage 9th-grade human supremes. Moreover, Corpse Hag had a puppet with him, which was also at the late-stage 9th-grade human supremes. Strictly speaking, the puppet's battle strength was also very powerful and not much weaker than Corpse Hag. This puppet's original form was a one-horned Tyrannosaurus, a late-stage 9th-grade human supremes. Back then, in order to capture the one-horned Tyrannosaurus, Corpse Hag paid a great price. She gathered many late-stage 9th-grade human supremes and set up a trap to capture it. After capturing the one-horned Tyrannosaurus, Corpse Hag refined it for a whole year before it was refined into a puppet. One-horned puppet, go and tear that young man to pieces. Corpse Hag suddenly stomped on the ground and leaped into the air, facing Ningyu from afar. Pointing at Ningyu with his right hand, Corpse Hag said in a deep voice, "As for the 2 guys next to him, kill them as well." Roar. The one-horned Tyrannosaurus let out a furious roar and turned into a gust of wind, charging at Ningyu. Although he was refined into a puppet, the one-horned Tyrannosaurus still had some intelligence, just that it wasn't complete. At this moment, there was only one thought in the puppet's mind, and that was to tear Ningyu to pieces and tear Ningyu to pieces. "Ningyu, you go deal with Corpse Hag. Leave this big guy to me," and Jin and the Dark Emperor knew that Ningyu was going to kill Corpse Hag. So when he saw the puppet charging out, he kicked Jin An's, but in charge of the puppet first. The Dark Emperor was a 4th-grade human sovereign, and his battle prowess was comparable to a 9th-grade human sovereign. However, he wasn't a match for the puppet alone. In just one exchange, the Dark Emperor was sent flying and landed among the experts of the Corpse sect. Kill. Tear him to pieces. He's a purple gold sky, devouring hound. Capture him alive. Capture the purple gold sky, devouring hound alive, and ask a skilled alchemist to refine pills for him. When the Dark Emperor landed, he was like a sheep in a tiger's mouth and was surrounded by the experts of the corpse sect. Jean, who was in the air, suddenly dashed out and engaged in a fierce battle with the one-horned puppet. At this moment, the Transverse Canyon was divided into 3 areas. The first area was where Jean, and the one-horned puppet were fighting. The second area was where the Dark Emperor was fighting the experts of the corpse sect. As for the third area, it was in the air. Chapter 1263. Chapter 1263. A terrifying battle power. Ningyu, I admit that you're strong. Shi Xiao didn't attack immediately. Instead, he glanced at the other 2 battlefields. The puppet's strength was slightly stronger than Jin 2's. In this battlefield, the puppet had the upper hand in pure physical attacks. On the other battlefield, although the Dark Emperor was defeated by the puppet, he was extremely powerful. He transformed into a native sky, devouring dog, and swung his tail. Almost every time he swung his tail, a 6th-grade human supreme would be killed. Fortunately, the Corpsine sect still had a 9th-grade human supreme. Under the leadership of the 9th-grade human supreme, they gradually turned the tide and were about to suppress the Dark Emperor. Hand over the divine war body bloodline, and I can spare you. Shi Xiao smirked as he had the upper hand in both battlefields. However, before Shi Xiao could finish her sentence, Ningyu rushed out and appeared in front of Shi Xiao in an instant. His fist carried a violent yuan qi gale as it fiercely smashed into Shi Xiao's chest. Damn it! The fact that Ningyu didn't play by the rules infuriated Shi Xiao. He placed his right hand in front of his chest and collided with Ningyu's fist. When the 2 fists collided, both Ningyu and Shi Xiao took a few steps back before they could stabilize themselves. Judging from the distance, Ningyu and Shi Xiao were evenly matched. No one could do anything to the other. Heavenly Wolf's fury. Shi Xiao was furious. He took out the Heavenly Wolf sword and slashed. A huge shadow of a Heavenly Wolf appeared and roared as it charged at Ningyu. This huge shadow of a Heavenly Wolf was no different from a real one, but it was terrifyingly powerful. Even though Ningyu was prepared, he still felt his heart tremble. He didn't dare to face the shadow of a Heavenly Wolf. As expected of the Heavenly Wolf sword, a top-grade royal grade flying sword, there must be a Heavenly Wolf's soul sealed inside it. The Heavenly Wolf clan was known as the Ancient Ferocious Beasts. An adult Heavenly Wolf was at least a Supremacy Realm cultivator. The Heavenly Wolf, who possessed a supreme bloodline, was said to be born as a supreme being, possessing terrifying strength. If the real Heavenly Wolf were to come, I might feel some fear. However, a mere Heavenly Wolf phantom image wants to suppress me? You are too arrogant. A cold glint shot out from Ningyu's eyes as he wielded the red demon sword and slashed at the illusory image of the Heavenly Wolf. How arrogant! Although the Sky Wolf's phantom image is only a phantom image, it is extremely powerful. If a random flying sword can kill it, that's impossible. Corpse Puppet said sinisterly when she saw Ningyu slashing the red demon sword at the Celestial Wolf Phantom. However, the Corpse Puppet's pupils grew larger and larger. In the end, it was so shocked that its eyeballs almost popped out. Gotcha! In midair, Ningyu wielded the red demon sword and slashed at the Celestial Wolf's head. Crack! The Celestial Wolf Phantom image was split into 2 by Ningyu's Red Devil. Roar! After the Celestial Wolf Phantom image was split into 2, an earth-shattering roar came from the Celestial Wolf sword. This roar seemed to be making a vow to Ningyu. It was furious and wanted to grind Ningyu's bones to dust. Oomph! How dare you be so arrogant with a flying sword? Grab it and destroy it. Even the sword itself is cut in half. With a cold snort, Ningyu stared at the Celestial Wolf sword in the Corpse Puppet's hand and said, "The Celestial Wolf sword is not worthy of being my flying sword." Uffed. The Corpse Puppet was so angry that she spat out a mouthful of blood. The Celestial Wolf sword was a supreme grade, Emperor-level flying sword. It was extremely powerful. In the corpse puppet's opinion, as long as the celestial wolf sword was used, Ningyu would definitely be killed. Now, it seemed that he had to do it himself. Taking a deep breath, the corpse puppet took a step forward and merged into the void. Once he made a move, it would be clear whether he was real or not. The corpse puppet moved. It looked like it was still in the same place, but in reality, it was just a phantom image. The corpse puppet's real body had already arrived in front of Ningyu. The primordial chi contained in the corpse puppet's fist was no less than Ningyu's. Universe palm. At the critical moment, Ningyu took half a step back and then opened his fist into a palm. In order to kill the corpse puppet with one move, Ningyu wrapped all the primordial chi in his body around his palm. Moreover, his late-stage rank, 8 soul power, and a longevity flame were also wrapped around his palm. The blood in his body circulated rapidly. The power of the war god body was unleashed to the extreme by Ningyu. Bang! In the next moment, Ningyu's palm and the corpse puppet's fist collided. Crack! Ningyu's palm suddenly enlarged and wrapped around the corpse puppet's fist. With a sudden burst of force, the corpse puppet's fist made a crisp sound. Bones shattered. The bones in the corpse puppet's entire right hand were completely shattered. The pain from the shattered bones caused the corpse puppet to let out a heart-wrenching scream. It was obvious that the corpse puppet's right hand was completely crippled. Ningyu, I'm going to tear you into pieces. The corpse puppet was trembling with rage. As a late-stage rank 9 human supreme, his right hand was actually crippled by Ningyu. The enraged corpse puppet clenched his left fist and punched toward Ningyu again. Good timing. Ningyu was initially worried that the corpse puppet would escape. Now that the corpse puppet had gone berserk, Ningyu was slightly relieved. If the corpse puppet escaped, Ningyu would definitely not chase after it. After all, the Dark Emperor and the Golden Leo were in a fierce battle and were at a disadvantage. Ningyu had to pay attention to their movements at all times. Now that the corpse puppet had gone berserk, it was the best opportunity for Ningyu. All the golden blood in his body gathered at a point on his right hand. Ningyu's eyes were indifferent as he raised his hand and punched. Crack, crack, crack. The power of Ningyu's punch was extremely terrifying. The space cracked, and a huge crack appeared. Not good. The corpse puppet didn't expect Ningyu to have such a terrifying move. His pupils shrank as he turned around and ran. Where there's life, there's hope. From the corpse puppet's point of view, as long as he escaped now, he could come back in half an hour and easily finish off Ningyu. However, how could Ningyu give him such a chance? Ningyu chased after the corpse puppet, and his right fist landed heavily on the corpse puppet's left hand. Crack! Ningyu's fist landed on the corpse puppet's left hand. Without a doubt, the corpse puppet's left hand was directly cracked. The divine war body is indeed powerful. The surrounding corpse sect experts who were fighting with the Dark Emperor all revealed a look of fear. The terror of the divine war body was far beyond their expectations. Even the powerful corpse puppet wasn't a match for Ningyu, let alone them. Run! At this moment, the corpse sect experts once again had this thought and couldn't think of it for a long time. Whoosh! The experts of the corpse sect worked together to force back the Dark Emperor, and they all escaped. Dark Emperor, Golden Lion, chase after them. Don't let anyone escape. Ningyu's eyes flickered, and he said, As for the horned puppet, leave it to me. Ningyu couldn't allow the corpse sect to know that he had the divine war body. With how cruel the corpse sect was, if they knew that he had the divine war body, they would probably send Earth sovereigns to deal with him. Right now, he was only a middle-phase 5th-grade sovereign. Even if he used the power of his bloodline, he wouldn't be able to deal with an Earth sovereign. Before he fully matured, Ningyu couldn't reveal that he had the divine war body. Understood. The Dark Emperor knew the severity of the situation. He flapped his purplish-golden wings and disappeared in the blink of an eye. Whoosh! Chapter 1264. Subdue Single-Horned Puppet. Kill him. Seeing so many corpse sect experts fleeing, not only was Shao not angry, but she was also very excited. The escape of the corpse sect experts had led the Dark Emperor and the Golden Puppet away. Originally, the one-horned puppet wanted to chase after Jinan, but the corpse hag, with her sharp eyes and quick mouth, stopped it in time. With the single-horn puppet by his side, the corpse hag wasn't very afraid of Ningyu. "Sure, Xiao. Do you really think this single-horn puppet can kill me?" The corners of Ningyu's lips curled up slightly. Ningyu activated the war god physique's bloodline power, allowing his strength to soar for half an hour. Now that there were 20 minutes left, Ningyu was truly fearless. The reason why Ningyu didn't attack immediately was because he wanted to subdue the single-horn puppet and the corpse puppet. Not long ago, Sure Xiao had said that the Blood God Palace, Emperor God Palace, and other powerful sects had set up obstacles on the way to the Thousand Leaf Empire. Ningyu had a bold idea. He wanted to kill all the experts from the Blood God Palace and Emperor God Palace who were blocking his way. "You are heartless to me, so don't blame me for being unjust to you." The power of the bloodline could not be used frequently. Every time it was used, it would take a long time to recuperate. Unless he could find a miraculous elixir, it would take at least a month for Ningyu to mobilize the power of his bloodline again. Ningyu couldn't wait for a month, so he had to subdue the corpse puppets and make them work for him. "Whether I can kill it or not, I'll have to try to find out." A cold voice came from the mouth of the corpse puppet. Whoosh! In the next instant, the horned puppet tore through space and appeared in front of Ningyu. Its blood chi is so dense. Could it be that it still retains the intelligence of a one-horned Tyrannosaurus? Sensing the terrifying aura emanating from the one-horned puppet, Ningyu was shocked. Logically speaking, the one-horned Tyrannosaurus had already been refined into a puppet by the corpse puppet. It was impossible for it to have any flesh and blood aura. Boom! Right at this moment, the single-horned puppet transformed into a strong gust of wind that smashed fiercely towards Ningyu. "Humph! I might have been afraid of you just now, but now that I've activated the power of my bloodline, killing you now is as easy as killing an ant." With a cold snort, Ningyu dodged to the side, grabbed the single-horned puppet's legs, and slammed it heavily on the ground. Dong dong! Ningyu moved the horned puppet up and down, causing it to continuously hit the ground. Fortunately, the single-horned puppet's body was tough. Otherwise, it would have fallen apart long ago if Ningyu moved like this. "My horned puppet!" Shi Zhao's pupils shrank as she roared. "Noisy!" Ningyu's eyes emitted a cold gleam, and then he swung the one-horned Tyrannosaurus at the corpse puppet. Kacha! 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 Although the corpse puppet was a late-stage 9th-grade supreme martial artist, it had already lost its ability to fight. Moreover, the corpse puppet's body was not as tough as the single-horned puppet's, so the corpse puppet's ribs that had just been reconnected broke another 3 times. "Ningyu, I'll kill you." The corpse puppet had a backbone, and it roared as it charged towards Ningyu. "Not bad, you've got guts." Ningyu casually threw the half-dead single-horned puppet to the side, and then looked at the corpse puppet with interest. Ningyu wanted to see what kind of trump card the corpse puppet had that it dared to be so presumptuous towards him. Run. However, what happened next made Ningyu a little dumbfounded. Before the corpse puppet reached Ningyu, it hurriedly took out a scroll from its bosom. The scroll exploded, and a small whirlpool appeared in the area. The corpse puppet leaped into the whirlpool. A cold voice came from the whirlpool. "Ningyu, if you dare to go to the Thousand Leaves Empire, you're destined to be killed by me. Want to leave? It won't be that easy." Ningyu automatically ignored the corpse puppet's words. He picked up the single-horned puppet again and swung it heavily at the whirlpool. Rumble. The single-horned puppet's body was tough, and even though it hit the whirlpool, it did not shatter. Inside the whirlpool, the corpse puppet was no longer calm. The whirlpool formed by the scroll was not particularly stable. If Ningyu continued to bombard it like this, it would shatter sooner or later. Once the whirlpool cracked, it would be exposed to Ningyu's vision and caught by Ningyu. The consequences of falling into the enemy's hands could be imagined. "No, I can't let the whirlpool break." The corpse puppet repeatedly forced out blood essence, trying to strengthen the whirlpool. Crack! However, the corpse puppet was no longer at its peak. No matter how hard it tried, the whirlpool was still getting weaker and weaker, and the shaking was getting more and more intense. Finally, a crisp sound rang out, and the whirlpool suddenly cracked open. Bang! After the whirlpool cracked open, the corpse puppet flew out like a kite with a broken string, crashing into the single-horned puppet. How could the corpse puppet's body compare to the single-horned puppet's in terms of toughness? The corpse puppet's body was about to fall apart, and it sat on the ground like a pile of mud. Defeated, completely defeated. The corpse puppet's eyes were empty and lifeless, and it was in complete despair. As a late-stage, ninth-grade supreme martial artist, and with the celestial wolf sword and the single-horned puppet, it was impossible. Who would have thought that it would still lose to Ningyu? I hate you. The corpse puppet wanted to roar out the frustration in its heart. It did not lose to Ningyu, but to carelessness, to inaccurate information, and to the war god physique. If it had known Ningyu's true combat strength in advance, it would not have lost, and it would have successfully killed Ningyu. Don't hate. I'll give you a chance to live. Ningyu took a step forward, swung the single-horned puppet, and was about to smash it at the corpse puppet. What chance? In the face of death, the corpse puppet, like most people, chose to drag out an ignoble existence. Submit to me, Ningyu said. I'll submit to him first, and then find a chance to escape. The corpse puppet thought in its heart. However, the corpse puppet did not reveal its inner thoughts, but acted a little unyielding. Impossible. I am a senior member of the Corpsine sect. I will never submit to you. Bang! Ningyu swung the single-horned puppet and smashed it. The corpse puppet was already seriously injured, and now that it was smashed by the single-horned puppet, it let out a cry. I submit to you. Stop smashing or I'll die. The corpse puppet hurriedly shouted. Oh, I thought you had something special in mind. Ningyu stopped and said, Open your mind and let my soul power enter your sea of consciousness. Controlling the corpse puppet was something that Ningyu had decided long ago, and it would never change. Because in a dozen minutes, his aura would decline, and he must control the corpse puppet before that. If not, he could only kill the corpse puppet. The corpse puppet was also rational. It knew that there was no way to argue with Ningyu at this time, so it could only be humble. As long as it found a good opportunity, it would be Ningyu's time to die. My mind has been completely opened. Your soul power can come in. The corpse puppet closed its eyes and said. However, the cold look in the corpse puppet's eyes flashed, and no one noticed it. Okay. Chapter 1265. Chapter 1265. Chapter 1265 Hunting him? As soon as Ningyu's soul force entered the corpse puppet's sea of consciousness, he discovered that something was amiss. However, Ningyu did not say anything. Instead, he left most of his soul force at the back, separating out a wisp of it to probe the corpse puppet's sea of knowledge. Did he discover something? Seeing that Ningyu had not immediately taken control of himself, and had instead split out a strand of his soul force to explore his sea of consciousness, Shi Zhao's expression became somewhat grave. The reason why he opened his mind and guided Ningyu's soul power into his sea of consciousness was because he felt that he had a way to deal with Ningyu. Of course, the premise was that Ningyu had to do everything he could to control him. Wait a little longer. Shi Zhao was patient. He knew what Ningyu was afraid of. The more it was like this, the calmer he had to be. He could not afford to make any mistakes. What is that? Suddenly, Ningyu discovered a dim light in the depths of the corpse puppet's sea of consciousness. Although this glow was a little dim, it was still discovered by Ningyu's keen senses. With a thought, Ningyu floated towards the depths of the corpse puppet's sea of consciousness. Almost there, just a little bit closer. Sensing that Ningyu was continuing to delve deeper into her sea of consciousness, the corpse puppet was so happy that she almost jumped up. As long as Ningyu took another step forward, he would fall into his trap. At that time, Ningyu's soul power would be trapped, and his physical body would be easily destroyed. At a distance of one step, Ningyu suddenly felt a sense of alertness in the depths of his heart. With the corpse puppet's personality, it was impossible for her to surrender without putting up a fight. I was careless. Ningyu lifted his right foot and retracted it. Damn it! Seeing Ningyu retract his right foot, Sure Shao couldn't help but curse. Just a little bit more. Just a little bit more. I'm so angry. Corpse puppet. At this point, Ningyu already knew that Sure Shao was plotting against him. With his sharp eyes, Ningyu retracted his soul power from the corpse puppet's sea of consciousness, picked up the horn puppet from the ground, and threw it at the corpse puppet. Ningyu didn't use any essence chi spell techniques. He only used his physical strength to bombard the corpse puppets. Ah, ah, ah. Every time it was struck by the horn puppet, the corpse puppet would let out a blood-curdling screech. 98, 99, 100. Every time Ningyu swung the horn puppet, he would count it. Ningyu only stopped after swinging the horn puppet and smashing it 100 times. He said in a low voice, Sure Shao, I originally only wanted you to work for me, but now it looks like I have to completely refine you. Don't refine me. I'll tell you everything I know. Please don't refine me. The corpse puppet knew that it was afraid. It didn't expect that everything it had planned would be seen through by Ningyu's keen perception. If it had known that this would happen, it would have completely opened its mind and allowed Ningyu to control it. Too late. Ningyu's face was expressionless. He swung the horn puppet again and smashed it at the corpse puppet's head. Bang! This time, Ningyu used almost all his strength and directly smashed the corpse puppet to the point where it was on the verge of death. Swoosh! At this moment, a cold light shot out from Ningyu's eyes and directly entered the corpse puppet's body. After this cold light entered the corpse puppet's body, it stuck closely to the corpse puppet's heart and went silent. After doing all this, Ningyu separated a wisp of soul power and carefully entered the corpse puppet's sea of consciousness, devouring and refining the light that the corpse puppet had left in the sea of consciousness. Following that, Ningyu's main soul power retreated from the corpse puppet's sea of consciousness, leaving behind an imperceptible wisp of soul power that constantly emitted light. This wisp of soul power was left behind by Ningyu to control the corpse puppet. With this wisp of soul power, the corpse puppet wouldn't dare to be impudent, or its sea of consciousness would be destroyed. Wake up! About 10 minutes later, Ningyu kicked the corpse puppet's head with his right foot and said solemnly, It's time to go. Ouch! After being kicked in the head by Ningyu, the corpse puppet's eyes opened abruptly. The corpse puppet first looked at Ningyu doubtfully and let out a mocking sound before shouting, Ha ha! Ningyu, the wheel of fortune really changes. This year, it's my turn. You've lost all your yuan qi and your aura is weak. It must be the dissipation of the divine war body's aura, and you've also suffered a backlash. Scram, hand over all your dharma treasures and elixirs, or I'll teach you a lesson. Ningyu kicked the corpse puppet again and said indifferently, Rebel, you're really rebelling. The corpse puppet roared. How could it tolerate being bullied by Ningyu again and again? Climbing up from the ground with difficulty, the corpse puppet raised its fist and was about to smash at Ningyu. Ha! However, as soon as the corpse puppet raised its right fist, it subconsciously smashed its own cheek. The corpse puppet was dumbfounded, its eyes widened in disbelief. Shaking its head, the corpse puppet raised its fist again and smashed at Ningyu. Pa 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 pa. Not only did the corpse puppet's fist not smash at Ningyu, it kept smashing its own cheek. Soon, the corpse puppet's head turned into a pig's head. Quick, let me. Woo, stop. The corpse puppet was very smart and knew who was the culprit after thinking for a while. Ningyu. It must be Ningyu who did something to it while it was unconscious. Ningyu just wanted to teach the corpse puppet a lesson. He didn't really want to take its life. With a thought, Ningyu let go of the control of the corpse puppet. Ningyu, what do you want? Although Ningyu let go of the control, the corpse puppet was still a little scared. From time to time, it stared at Ningyu, afraid that what happened just now would happen again. The corpse puppet had already recognized the fact that it was controlled by Ningyu. If Ningyu wanted to kill it, it would be effortless. In this situation, it could only pretend to be polite to Ningyu first, and then think of a way to contact the experts of the other major sects. You want to join forces with the others to deal with me? As soon as the thought appeared in the corpse puppet's mind, Ningyu crossed his arms in front of his chest and stared at the corpse puppet with interest. This is bad. Being stared at by Ningyu like this, the corpse puppet knew that it was bad. Pa! Pa! Sure enough, the corpse puppet's right hand once again went out of control and hit its own cheek. Muffled sounds rang out as the corpse puppet's fist continued to fall on its cheek. The corpse puppet's head was already like a pig's, and now that it was hit by it, its cheek was swollen to the point that it couldn't even see its eyes. I only want to cooperate with smart people. As for those who aren't smart, I don't mind sending them to hell. Ningyu took a step forward and revealed his aura. Although the bloodline power of the war god body had disappeared, Ningyu didn't show any signs of weakness. Instead, he was as strong as before. This situation was obviously out of the corpse puppet's expectation. How did he recover so quickly? Could it be that he has some kind of heavenly treasure? The corpse puppet's heart beat rapidly. A heavenly treasure that could quickly remove the aftereffects of the war god body must be very special. Once he obtained it, his strength would increase greatly. Whether I have a heavenly treasure or not, it's not your concern. What you need to do now is to tell me where the other experts of the corpsine sect are. Next, I'm going to hunt. Chapter 1266. Myriad Bone Cave, Ningyu, they are all experts of the corpsine sect. If you want to kill them, aren't you afraid that venerable corpsine will personally come to the Transverse Canyon? The corpse puppet pretended to be calm and said in a low voice, "You seem to be fearless." Ningyu narrowed his eyes and said faintly, "How could I dare to be so fearless? I am currently being controlled by you and might die any moment. I am a prisoner, so I'm only considering things from your perspective." The corpse puppet said, "Pa!" Ningyu slapped the corpse puppet's cheek, sending it flying and crashing into the mountain wall. "You dare to behave atrociously here without any trump cards? If you know what's good for you, then take me to the corpsine sect as soon as possible. If you can't kill them all within a day, I'll skin you alive," Ningyu said coldly. He did not want to waste any more time here. The Dark Emperor and Jean were chasing after the corpse sect's experts. Up until now, Ningyu still hadn't contacted them. Logically speaking, both the Dark Emperor and the Golden Two were connected to Ningyu. Now that Ningyu could not contact them, it meant that they were most likely in danger. The more Ningyu thought about it, the more anxious he became. He raised his hand and slapped the corpse puppet a few more times. "Last chance, take me to the experts of the corpsine sect, or die." Ningyu's aura burst forth, as if he was going to kill the corpse puppet if it refused. I'll talk. It's very likely that they're at the Blood God Palace." Ka. The corpse puppet's knees creaked, not daring to be slow. At the same time, in order to gain Ningyu's trust, Shi Shao revealed a secret. In order to kill you, the Blood God Palace sent a much stronger lineup than our corpse sect. "How strong?" Ningyu asked. "Peak 9th grade sovereign," Shi Shao said. "The Blood God Palace has sent a total of 3 experts this time. 2 of them are late 9th grade human sovereigns, and 1 is peak 9th grade human sovereign." Pinnacle 9th grade sovereign. Hearing this, Ningyu frowned slightly, feeling a little troubled. A peak 9th grade human supreme being was indeed very powerful, far exceeding his current strength. According to Ningyu's speculations, he would have to think of a way to reach the 6th grade sovereign realm and use the full power of his bloodline to fight with a pinnacle 9th grade sovereign realm human sovereign. Of course, this was just a simple exchange of blows. There was no way for him to defeat Zhang Xian. If he wanted to defeat a pinnacle 9th grade sovereign, Ningyu would have to reach the pinnacle 6th grade sovereign realm or even the 7th grade sovereign realm before he could defeat a pinnacle 9th grade sovereign. Taking a deep breath, Ningyu felt a deep pressure. If the corpse puppet wasn't lying, then the Blood God Palace was determined to kill them. "Let's go. Take me to the experts of the corpsine sect." Kicking the corpse puppets, but Ningyu said, "You don't have to give me the exact location of the corpse sect's experts within half an hour. Otherwise, I'll roast you alive." Ningyu was incomparably domineering. In fact, it wasn't surprising. Ningyu had left 2 backups in the corpse puppet's sea of consciousness and heart, so he wasn't afraid that the corpse puppet would betray him. With these 2 backups, the corpse puppet wouldn't be able to cause any trouble. "Let the one-horned puppet take us," the corpse puppet hurriedly said. The corpse puppet knew the approximate location of the Dark Emperor's group, which was very far away from here. With the speed of his injured body, it would probably take a few hours to get there. Ningyu gave him half an hour. If he couldn't find the exact location of the Dark Emperor's group within half an hour, Ningyu might really kill him. It's fine, this one-horned puppet is mine. Point out the direction, and I'll take you there. Ningyu waved his hand and flicked his finger. Suddenly, a cold light flew out and entered the one-horned puppet's sea of consciousness. Ah! The corpse puppet let out a miserable scream. At this moment, the corpse puppet discovered that its connection with the one-horned puppet had been severed. In other words, Ningyu controlled the one-horned puppet, the puppet that he had spent a lot of effort to refine. Swish! Ignoring the cold gaze of the corpse puppet, Ningyu kicked the corpse puppet's chest and kicked it onto the one-horned puppet. As for Ningyu, he leaped up and stood on the back of the one-horned puppet, controlling it to pass through the transverse canyon and move forward quickly. Which direction? Go straight ahead about 5 minutes. After leaving the transverse canyon, the corpse puppet took out a round plate from its bosom. There was a silver needle on the round plate. At this moment, the silver needle was swaying left and right, but its general direction was ahead. Go! Ningyu controlled the one-horned puppet and moved forward continuously. The one-horned puppet's speed was very fast, almost leaping several li in a single leap. East, 3 minutes. South, 1 minute. Straight, 10 minutes. Along the way, under the guidance of the round plate, the one-horned puppet kept turning its head. The one-horned puppet's speed was very fast, so fast that it turned into a gust of wind. I got it. Suddenly, the corpse puppet slapped its head and shouted. What's going on? Ningyu asked. I know where the experts of the Corpse-Een sect and the Dark Emperor are trapped. After taking a deep breath, the corpse puppet revealed a frightened expression. Trapped? Were they trapped? Ningyu faintly felt that something was wrong, but he still said in a deep voice, 10,000 Bone Cave. The corpse puppet uttered these 3 words. 10,000 Bone Cave? Ningyu's eyebrows twitched. It was obvious that he was unfamiliar with this place. It's over, it's over. Anyone who enters the 10,000 Bone Cave will not have a good ending. The corpse puppet seemed to have gone crazy as it kept uttering these words. Slap. Ningyu slapped the corpse puppet's cheek, temporarily calming it down. Speak, what's going on? Ningyu said coldly. He wanted to know. I'll tell you the truth. The 10,000 Bone Cave is very deep, so deep that you can't see the bottom. It said that there's something powerful inside. The corpse puppet didn't seem to want to mention that place, but due to Ningyu's power, it had to say the 10,000 Bone Cave is not just a cave. With the 10,000 Bone Cave as the center, the surrounding area is very terrifying. Not to mention ordinary warriors, even a 9th grade human supreme would have a slim chance of survival if they entered there. How can you be sure that the Dark Emperor and the others enter the area where the 10,000 Bone Cave is? Ningyu asked. I can't be wrong. This silver needle wheel will not lie to me. The corpse puppet raised the wheel in its hand and handed it to Ningyu. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. As soon as Ningyu held the wheel, the silver needle on the wheel swayed left and right, gradually increasing its speed. Not long after, the silver needle suddenly shattered, and cracks appeared on the entire wheel. Not good. The area of the 10,000 Bone Cave has expanded. Let's go, or else we won't be able to come out if we are trapped inside. Seeing the silver needle shatter and the wheel crack, the corpse puppet shouted crazily as it continuously retreated. At this moment, the corpse puppet acted as if it had seen a ghost. It did not listen to Ningyu's control at all. At this moment, the corpse puppet only had one thought in its mind, and that was to leave this damned place as soon as possible. It did not want to step into the area where the 10,000 Bone Cave was. Chapter 1267. Crack, crack. Although the corpse puppet was constantly retreating, if one looked closely, it was spinning in place. In the end, the corpse puppet's knees were broken and its entire body sat on the ground. Panting heavily, the corpse puppet's face was full of despair. It's over, it's over, it's over this time. I've alerted the strongest experts in the Thousand Bone Cave. The corpse puppet could not stop talking. Its eyes were dim, and its entire body was surrounded by a cloud of turbid air. What the hell is this? Ningyu took a step forward and shook off the turbid air around the corpse puppet. He said in a deep voice, "How dare you behave atrociously in front of me? Don't resist. You are no match for them. In the Thousand Bone Caves area, they are the kings. They're almost invincible among those of the same level. Even killing those of a higher level is not a problem." The corpse puppet said weakly and even tried to persuade Ningyu to give up. Ningyu's hair stood on end. Who was the corpse puppet? It was a late-stage 9th grade human supreme of the Corpsine sect. It was extremely powerful. If he did not use the bloodline power of the war god body, he would not be able to fight against the corpse puppet. But such a peerless expert now had no fighting spirit and was completely lazy. Ningyu was very confused. What was hidden in the Thousand Bone Cave that could make the corpse puppet like this? Kiki, humans, it's been a long time since I've eaten humans. A late-stage 9th grade human supreme and a middle-stage 5th grade human supreme. Looks like I can have a good meal today. A gloomy voice rang in Ningyu's ears. Then, a fist tore through the void and punched towards Ningyu's head. Boom! Ningyu was alarmed. He threw out a backhand punch, which collided with the fist behind his head unavoidably. When the two fists collided, Ningyu and the mysterious expert both retreated several feet. Oh! After one move, the gloomy voice rang out again. But this time, there was a hint of surprise in the voice. A middle-grade 5th grade Sovereign Realm cultivator is so powerful to be able to receive 10% of my strength. Indeed, he's not simple. He's much stronger than those who came not long ago. Hearing this, Ningyu raised his eyebrows. He didn't show it on the surface, but his heart was in turmoil. It seemed like the Dark Emperor and the Golden Leo had entered this 10,000 bone cave by mistake. Voila! In an instant, the space in front of Ningyu split open, and a young man appeared. This young man was similar to Ningyu. He was dressed in a blue robe, and his body was emitting a terrifying essence chi fluctuation. As soon as the young man appeared, Ningyu discovered that the world tree sapling in his storage ring was trembling slightly. Could it be? Ningyu's expression was gloomy. He could vaguely guess the young man's identity. Danzhong. Ningyu didn't say anything. The corpse puppet next to him said with a terrified expression, "You're the Danzhong of the 10,000 Bone Cave. Why do you want to hurt me? I'm just passing by. Besides, I'm from the Yin Corpse sect. Our sect leader knows an expert from your Danzhong clan. According to the rules of the 10,000 Bone Cave, all living beings that step into this place will become our food." The young man shrugged and said, "You're not bad. A late-stage 9th grade Sovereign Realm cultivator. You'll definitely taste good." As he spoke, the young man moved quickly and charged at the corpse puppet. Whoosh! Ningyu stomped on the ground and instantly stood in front of the corpse puppet. The corpse puppet was Ningyu's captive. Even if she was to be killed, Ningyu had to do it himself. How could he allow an outsider to interfere? Besides, the one before him was not a human, but a Danzhong. "You're courting death." A cold light shot out from the young man's eyes towards Ningyu. The young man was unwilling to accept that his punch had failed to kill Ningyu. He was a peerless Danzhong, ranked 10th in the 10,000 Bone Cave. He was a mid-stage 5th grade Sovereign Realm cultivator, but he couldn't even finish off a human mid-stage 5th grade Sovereign Realm cultivator. If word got out, where would he put his face? Most importantly, this was the territory of the 10,000 Bone Cave. He could use the power of the 10,000 Bone Cave to increase his own strength and suppress his opponents. Under such circumstances, he still couldn't kill his opponent with one punch. If word got out to the 10,000 Bone Cave and the other Danzhong found out, he would become a laughingstock among the other Danzhong. Ningyu's expression was emotionless. He clenched his right hand into a fist and threw out a punch. Pa! Ningyu's fist collided with the cold light and both dissipated. "You're not bad, but unfortunately, you're still no match for me." In just 2 short exchanges, Ningyu had a rough idea of a young man's true strength. He was a mid-stage 5th grade sovereign realm cultivator. With the help of the taboo formation, he could explode with the battle power of an early-stage 9th grade sovereign realm cultivator. However, this battle power was obviously useless against Ningyu. Really? The young man's eyes widened. He waved his hands and instantly activated the surrounding taboo formation. Brat, in this taboo formation, I'm invincible, and you'll be suppressed, the young man said fiercely. If I want to kill you, it'll be as easy as blowing off dust. Who doesn't know how to brag? The corner of Ningyu's mouth curled up. He moved his feet and walked towards the young man. Ningyu's speed wasn't too fast, but he kept moving forward. Damn it! Damn it! The young man cursed. At this moment, the young man panicked. It seemed that the young man in front of him was not ordinary, and the taboo formation was useless against him. Tell me where the Dark Emperor and the others are, and I can spare your life. With the sapling blocking the advancement formation, Ningyu was fearless. He took a step forward and appeared in front of the young man. Ningyu's majestic voice sounded out from his mouth, shocking everyone's heart. You want to kill me? It's not that easy. The young man had a trump card. He took out a crystal ball and suddenly crushed it. Suddenly, an extremely dense wave of yuan qi appeared and was swallowed by the young man. Yuan qi pill puppet. Seeing the young man's actions, Ningyu stopped and did not attack immediately. The young man in front of him was an yuan qi pill puppet. Otherwise, he wouldn't have swallowed so much dense yuan qi. At this moment, Ningyu had a bold idea. He could use this young man to lure out an even stronger yuan qi pill puppet from the Myriad Bone Cave. Ningyu was currently a mid-stage 5th grade human supreme. He hadn't accumulated enough yuan qi to break through to the late-stage 5th grade human supreme. Although this young man was only a mid-stage 5th grade human supreme, the pure yuan qi in his body was even greater than that of a late-stage 9th grade human supreme. As long as he could swallow a few more of these pill puppets, Ningyu was confident that he could quickly advance to the late-stage 5th grade human supreme, or even the late-stage 6th grade human supreme. Thinking of this, Ningyu said calmly, I won't kill you. You can leave. The young man didn't know what Ningyu was planning. Logically speaking, he had bullied Ningyu like this, so there was no reason for Ningyu to let him go. What I mean is, leave this body of yours, and you can split a part of your consciousness to return to the Myriad Bone Cave. Chapter 1268. Chapter 1268. Chapter 1268, Resuscitation, Humph. You want me to leave? It won't be that easy. After swallowing the pure yuan qi in the crystal ball, the young man's aura increased several times. On the surface, the young man's cultivation was still in the middle phase 5th grade sovereign realm, but his fighting prowess had increased by a lot. Although the taboo formation is useless against you, we are of the same realm. I can still kill you. With that, the young man stomped his feet on the ground, and his body instantly shot out. At this moment, the young man wanted to start a massacre. He wanted to kill Ningyu. As the 10th ranked pill puppet of the Myriad Bone Cave, the young man was very arrogant. When he fought with Ningyu just now, he was at a disadvantage, so this time, he had to get back at him, kill Ningyu, and refine him. The young man's aura skyrocketed. It was extremely terrifying, as if his aura could swallow mountains and rivers. Reckless. Ningyu's eyes flashed with a cold light as he faced the young man who was charging at him. He said in a low voice, I originally wanted to let you live, but since you're looking for death, I'll fulfill your wish. For the current Ningyu, he had no fear even if they were in the same realm. The young man in front of him was only at the middle stage of the 5th rank. Even if he was a Dan puppet, even if he had outstanding talent, there was no way he could contend against Ningyu. Universe Palm. Ningyu clenched his right fist and punched out. The Universe Palm was the 9th move of the Netherworld Samsara Palm. It was extremely powerful, especially after Ningyu advanced to the 5th grade Mortal Sovereign Realm. The might of the Universe Palm was several times stronger than before. Ningyu's palm was very fast. His whole body was like an afterimage, appearing in front of the young man like a ghost. A crisp sound rang out. Ning Yu's right hand left a mark on the young man's cheek. What? The sudden change caused the young man's expression to change drastically, and he even felt a little terrified. It's not good to be distracted now. After deciding to attack, Ning Yu would not hold back. He grabbed the horn puppet and swung it at the young man. Kacha! Kacha! The single-horned puppet's body was extremely hard, so hard that it was terrifying. Ning Yu had only just swung the horned puppet a few times when the young man was already covered in blood and his aura was rapidly weakening. What a piece of trash. I haven't even done anything, and you've already fallen. Seeing the young man sitting on the ground, panting heavily and covered in blood, Ning Yu curled his lips and said, "You're too weak. You're not worthy of me using my full strength." Pucci. Hearing Ning Yu's arrogant words, the young man couldn't help but spit out a mouthful of blood. Brat, are you trying to bully our 10,000 bone cave? The young man roared, "If you have the ability, you can let me go. I'll find someone to deal with you. Have you lost your mind?" Ning Yu's mouth was slightly agape as he stared at the young man in disbelief. "You want me to send back a delicious meal that's already in your mouth? Do you have a tumor in your head?" Pu. Ning Yu's words were very vicious, causing the young man to spit out a mouthful of blood. "If it wasn't for the fact that I want information from you, I would have killed you long ago." Ning Yu took a step forward and unleashed a powerful aura that soared into the sky. Actually, Ning Yu was right. The young man was only a 5th-grade intermediate human supreme. If Su Mo wanted to kill him, he wouldn't even need to do it himself. Just the single-horned puppet alone would be enough. The puppet wasn't a human, so it wouldn't be restricted by the forbidden formation. Furthermore, with the puppet's 9th-grade advanced human supreme strength, it wouldn't take much effort to kill the young man. Ha ha ha. Don't even think about getting any information from me. Ha ha ha. The young man roared like a madman. At this moment, the young man seemed to have really lost his mind. "I didn't want to devour you so early, but since you're looking for death, I can only start with you." Ning Yu took a step forward and raised his right foot, stomping heavily on the young man's chest. Crack! The young man struggled with all his might, but he couldn't escape. Several of his ribs were also broken. Swoosh! At this moment, the small sapling burst out from the storage ring and entered the young man's mind. Buzz! The sapling was the world tree, and it specialized in suppressing pill puppets. Although the young man was a 5th-grade intermediate human supreme pill puppet, his aura was weak, so he was naturally no match for the sapling. Not long after, the young man was refined by the sapling. Where's the energy? Ning Yu was puzzled when he saw that the sapling didn't give him any energy after refining the young man. One must know that the sapling had given him a lot of energy after refining the pill puppet in the past few times. Why didn't it this time? The sapling wanted to eat it alone. Ning Yu was shocked. "I need a lot of energy." Just when Ning Yu was about to interrogate the sapling, an extremely weak fluctuation rang in Ning Yu's mind. What the hell? The voice in his mind shocked Ning Yu. He looked at the sapling in front of him suspiciously and asked, "Is it really you? Energy. I need a large amount of energy. Take me to the Myriad Bone Cave." The fluctuation became weaker and weaker and finally disappeared completely. Gulp! Ning Yu swallowed a mouthful of saliva. It really was the sapling talking. Could it be that the sapling had become a spirit? Ning Yu had many questions in his mind, but he knew that the sapling was in a deep sleep and no one would answer his questions. If he wanted to understand everything, he had to find a large amount of energy for the sapling to wake it up again. After last time, Ning Yu realized that the sapling was getting more and more sleepy, and it no longer produced Shenyang pills. To the Myriad Bone Cave. After thinking for a while, Ning Yu decided to personally go to the Myriad Bone Cave. Although there were dangers in the Myriad Bone Cave, danger and opportunity coexisted. Without danger, there would be no opportunity. Ning Yu didn't want to miss this opportunity. Moreover, the Dark Emperor and Golden Puppet were most likely trapped in the Myriad Bone Cave. Ning Yu had to go to the Myriad Bone Cave. Shi Xiao, lead the way. I want to go to the Myriad Bone Cave. Ning Yu grabbed Shi Xiao's shoulder and threw it on the horned puppet's shoulder. Shi Xiao was Ning Yu's backup. Ning Yu naturally wouldn't leave Shi Xiao behind. I can't go. The Myriad Bone Cave is extremely dangerous. Anyone who enters will definitely not survive. I'm not going. Sure, Xiao shouted, and, at the same time, tried to jump off the horn puppet's shoulder. Oomph. Ningyu said angrily, "If you want to stay, I'll send you on your way." As he spoke, Ningyu pointed a finger at the center of Shi Zhao's brows. Ah! An intense pain came from the forehead, causing Shi Zhao to scream. Shi Zhao's screams were very miserable, and she almost fainted a few times. After a while, Shi Zhao's screams stopped. "I'll bring you to the Myriad Bone Cave. 100 miles ahead is where the Myriad Bone Cave is." The eyes of the corpse puppet were dim and lifeless. "Let's go." Chapter 1269. Chapter 1269. Chapter 1269. To seize Myriad Bone Cave. This was a place of great danger. According to legend, all living beings that stepped into the Myriad Bone Cave's territory were killed without exception. However, something special had happened in the Myriad Bone Cave recently. Someone saw a youth step into the Myriad Bone Cave's area and enter the Myriad Bone Cave. 3 days later, the young man stepped on a cloud and flew out of the Thousand Bone Cave. A few days later, someone discovered that the young man had appeared in the Qinya Empire and finally landed in the Divine Emperor Palace. Of course, these were all rumors and not necessarily true. He really overestimates himself. He actually went to the Myriad Bone Cave alone. If not for the fact that we were out traveling, how could we have allowed him to act so viciously? In the depths of the Myriad Bone Cave, within a certain luxurious palace, a young man with outstanding talent said in a deep voice, "Little Nine, there is no need to be angry. The ancestor has said that we can leave the Myriad Bone Cave in a few days and head to the Thousand Leaf Empire to search for opportunities." Opposite the young man, a man in his 20s said, "Eighth brother, has a sovereign divine treasure really appeared in the Thousand Leaf Empire?" The eyes of the young man with a brilliant horn opened wide when he heard this. "Hee, for real." The man called Brother Ba smiled faintly and said, "Big brother, second brother, third brother, the 3 of them have already gone to the Thousand Leaf Empire to scout for us. When the time is right, we'll go there as well." Good. The appearance of the supreme divine treasure is definitely a great opportunity for our lineage to rise. The youth with the brilliant horn clapped his hands and cheered. There's no hurry. There's still a period of time before the supreme divine treasure truly appears. Let's go take a look at that heaven-devouring dog. Waving his hand, Mina walked out of the palace. Rumor has it that Brother Ba caught a sky-devouring dog with an ancient bloodline. It's better to see it in person than to hear about it. I'll go take a look today. The young man with bright horns followed behind Mina and left the palace. Creak. In the dark secret room, the door was slowly pushed open. This secret room was located in the deepest part of the Thousand Bone Cave. It was the underground prison of the Thousand Bone Cave. It was rumored that all supreme beings and above who stepped into the Myriad Bone Cave would be brought here. As for what they would encounter here, no one knew, because no living being from the outside world had ever left. At this moment, the promising youth and Amina were walking side by side in the secret chamber. On the 2 sides of the secret chamber were several cages. 1. Each cage imprisoned a supreme being. Some of these experts raised their heads and laughed. Some muttered to themselves, some pounded their heads on the ground, and some remained silent. Without exception, the weakest among them was at the utmost exalted realm. 2. Supreme Being 1. Supreme Being. In the end, there were even 2 peerless powerhouses. Although they were trapped by the huge chains, it could still be seen from the surface that they were peak 9th grade human supreme martial artists before they were trapped. 1. 2 Dragon 2 9 Heaven On, a Supreme 1 2 2 Dragon Dragon 2 King 2 2 2 comma 2 2 2 2 2 2. The horned youth glanced at the 2 peerless experts with a look of disdain. Mina was very calm and always gave people a feeling of maturity and steadiness. The 8th brother's name was Dan Kong, and he was ranked 8th among the Myriad Bone Cave's peerless pill puppets. He was a peak 5th grade human sovereign. The outstanding youth beside him was called Dan Hao. He was ranked 9th amongst the peerless geniuses of the Myriad Bone Cave and had a cultivation of late 5th grade sovereign. After refining the two of them, 8th brother should be able to break through to the 6th grade human supreme, right? Dan Howe's face lit up with joy. Once 8th brother reaches the 6th grade sovereign realm, his strength will increase by several folds. At that time, he'll be able to fight for the top 3. It's not that easy to fight for the top 3. Shaking his head, Dan Kong continued, even if I advance to the 6th grade sovereign realm, I can only make it to the top 5. It's basically impossible for me to make it to the top 3. Hee, 8th brother, don't think that I don't know that you captured the purple gold heaven devouring hound. You definitely want to use some secret technique to refine it into an elixir. Dan Howe chuckled. That's a purple gold sky devouring hound we're talking about. His bloodline is extremely dense. If we use him to refine medicine, there's a high chance we'll succeed. We're here. Dan Kong smiled indifferently before pushing open the door to the deepest secret chamber. The order inside isn't stable. Try not to use too much energy. Don't worry, 8th brother. It's not my first time here. I know what to do. It's good that you know. Dan Kong took out a key from his bosom and tossed it out. The key instantly shone brightly and opened the last door amidst Dan Howe's surprised exclamation. Creak! Roar! As soon as the door opened, an earth-shattering roar came from within. 8th brother, didn't you say that you captured a heaven-devouring hound? Hearing this roar, Dan Howe was a little confused. The owner of the roar didn't sound like a dog at all. Instead, it sounded like a tiger or a lion. This dog is a little special. It's always barking. Dan Kong said, let's go in. Other than that dog, there's something special. Something special. Dan Howe raised an eyebrow and followed closely behind Dan Kong. You two brats, hurry up and release your imperial grandfather. Otherwise, Ningyu will skin you alive when he comes. Seeing Dan Howe and Dan Kong enter, the Dark Emperor roared. Chains interweaved around the Dark Emperor's body, trapping him to the point that he couldn't move at all. Even though the Dark Emperor was a grade 4 human supreme, he was helpless against these chains. Behind the Dark Emperor, Jinan's body emitted a golden glow as he tried his best to defend against the golden scroll above him. I would like to meet that so-called Ningyu. Dan Kong walked past the Dark Emperor and stood before Jin, and this Jinan's mind is extremely special. Even the ancient scroll can't break it. 8th brother, the special thing you're talking about should be this Dan, right? Dan Howe pointed at Jin and nodding. Dan Kong said, that's right. This Dan's battle prowess has reached the late stage grade 9 human supreme. Furthermore, it's made of special materials. If we can control it, it'll be of great help to us in the fight for the sovereign divine treasure. What's so difficult about that? Dan Howe took a step forward and a cold gleam shot out from his eyes. Chi-chi. The cold gleam tore through the void and appeared between Jinan's brows. Get in. Dan Howe forced out his blood to activate the cold gleam. Jinan's body shone brightly as he tried his best to defend against the cold gleam. 10 minutes later, Jinan finally couldn't hold on any longer. His forehead was pierced. Poochie. At the same time, outside the Myriad Bone Cave, Ningyu felt something sweet in his throat as he spat out a mouthful of blood. It really is in the Myriad Bone Cave. Wiping the blood from the corner of his mouth, Ningyu's face turned even colder. Chapter 1270. Kill. Sapling, if you want more energy, stop pretending to be dead. Hurry and tell me if there are any powerful old monsters in the Myriad Bone Cave. Standing at the entrance of the Myriad Bone Cave, Ningyu began to communicate with the sapling. Ningyu was not a fool. He would not barge into the Myriad Bone Cave like this. Since the Myriad Bone Cave could make people's expressions change, it meant that this place was special and extremely dangerous. Although he was eager to save the Dark Emperor, Ningyu had a plan ahead and would not barge in recklessly. Forbidden Array. I can break your energy. I am asleep. An ethereal voice rang out in Ningyu's mind. Ningyu was slightly startled. It seemed that the sapling had recovered quite a bit after devouring the young man. The sapling is the world tree. It should not lie to me. After a moment, Ningyu clenched his teeth and jumped into the myriad bone cave. The myriad bone cave had a total of 10 levels. At this moment, Ningyu stood at the entrance of the first level and looked up. The words myriad bone cave were carved on a huge rock. It should have been carved by a 9th grade human sovereign. Ningyu's gaze landed on the rock. Slash! Suddenly, Ningyu moved. He wielded the red demon sword and heavily slashed at the rock. Crack! In an instant, the rock was shattered. However, the words myriad bone cave on the rock turned into 3 sharp swords that shot straight at Ningyu. Small fry. Ningyu's fighting spirit sword as he waved the red demon sword in his hand. In an instant, several sword lights flew out and blocked the 3 sharp swords. Crash! The battle did not last long, ending in a minute. However, after the battle ended, several figures suddenly rushed out of the first level of the myriad bone cave. Ningyu looked over and saw that the cultivation of these figures was not very high. The highest was only a 3rd grade human sovereign. Which scoundrel dares to trespass the 10,000 bone cave? Kill without mercy. Numerous Supreme Being realm martial artists moved out one after another. For a time, this area was filled with magical techniques and sword shadows. In the middle of the battle, Ningyu was calm and unafraid. He waved the red demon sword in his hand even more vigorously. Ka. Every time Ningyu swung the red demon sword, a supremacy realm martial artist's head would fall to the ground. After the venerable stage Dan puppet died, their bodies would explode, and the energy within their bodies would transform into a ball of light that entered Ningyu's storage ring. Not good. Retreat quickly. Ningyu's fiend-like battle finally caused these pill puppets to retreat in fear. However, since Ningyu had decided to make a move, he would not let a single one of them escape. In order to kill these pill puppets as soon as possible, Ningyu did not hold back. He even brought out the single-horned puppet. The single-horned puppet had fought with Gene 2 before. Its strength was at the late-stage 9th grade sovereign stage. It was a terrifying existence. Ningyu and the single-horned puppet attacked together. In just 3 minutes, they killed all the experts here. Apart from the majority of the pill puppets transforming into energy and being absorbed by the sapling, a small amount of energy landed in Ningyu's body and was devoured and refined by Ningyu. Not bad. The pill puppets are indeed my lucky star. If I want to break through in the future, I should look for them. Ningyu was very satisfied. This battle was very shocking. He and the single-horned puppet worked together and killed many pill puppets. Without exception, these pill puppets were all essence pill caverns. The energy within their bodies filled Ningyu's consciousness with vitality, and his cultivation reached the peak of the mid-stage, 5th grade sovereign stage. To the 2nd floor, Ningyu waved his hand and directly brought the single-horned puppet to the 2nd floor. Before entering the 10,000 bone cave, to ensure the safety of the corpse puppet, Ningyu threw it into the storage ring. After all, the storage ring could store people and temporarily protect the corpse puppet's life. 2. The 2nd floor of the 10,000 bone cave was similar to the 1st floor. There was also a huge stone. On the stone, there was a 2 carved. It was carved by a 5th grade sovereign stage. Ningyu was a little surprised. He did not expect a 5th grade sovereign stage to be able to carve this kind of word. This, too, had already triggered a great momentum, and it could faintly merge with the void. Break! Ningyu flicked his finger. Instantly, a cold light flew out and hit the stone. Ningyu was very surprised, because when the cold light hit the stone only shook a little and then returned to normal. One must know that the cold light just now was an attack with 30% of Ningyu's strength. Just one word can block an attack with 30% of my strength. It's much stronger than that 5th grade sovereign stage who was shouting outside. Ningyu put away his contempt and began to re-examine the stone. Not long after, Ningyu made his move. Once he made his move, it was shocking. Ningyu held the red demon's sword in his hand and slashed at the stone. Crack! Ningyu's attack was earth-shattering. The huge stone was directly pierced through and split into 2. The 2 turned into a cold light, trying to hide in the void. Trying to leave? Stay and let me have a look. Ningyu made his move again. The frequency of the red demon sword in his hand became faster and faster, so fast that it could not be seen with the naked eye. The two wanted to block, but in the end, it was powerless and lost, and Ningyu took it away. This word is very special. It contains a trace of a special path. Looking at the two, Ningyu frowned and murmured, "Poof." Suddenly, the two character exploded and turned into dust. Good, very good, very good. How dare you? After the two exploded, a huge shadow appeared in midair. It said coldly to Ningyu, "Today, I will make sure you have nowhere to go." Arrogant. Ningyu extended his right hand and gradually enlarged it. In the end, he slapped the shadow, shattering it. "Just you wait, I will kill you." The cold voice resounded in the area and then disappeared. Immediately after, many experts appeared on the second level of the Myriad Bone Cave. These experts were all rank 4 supreme martial artists. Kill. Ningyu knew what his goal was. He raised a red demon sword and charged forward. With the sapling, Ningyu was naturally not afraid of the super strong Dan puppet in the Myriad Bone Cave. Or, in other words, the sapling knew that there were no super strong Dan puppets in the Myriad Bone Cave, which was why it sent him down. Otherwise, even the sapling would feel uneasy if the super strong Dan puppet targeted it. In the deepest part of the Myriad Bone Cave, Danhao spat out a mouthful of blood. What happened? Beside Danhao, Dan Kong asked hurriedly. Someone killed their way in. Wiping the blood from the corner of his mouth, Danhao said in a low voice. What? Could it be an Earth Supreme? Dan Kong was shocked. Currently, the Myriad Bone Cave was empty. The super strong had already left for the Thousand Leaf Empire. Even the other Dan puppet geniuses had left the Myriad Bone Cave. If an Earth Supreme came in now, it would be difficult for them to escape. It's not an Earth Supreme, but a rank 5 intermediate human supreme. Danhao said coldly. He has already killed his way to the second level. Rank 5 intermediate human supreme? How could he enter the Myriad Bone Cave? Chapter 1271. Chapter 1271. Activating the Forbidden Formation. There seems to be a problem with the Forbidden Formation. It hasn't been activated, Danhao said. Oh no. Suddenly, Dan Kong said hurriedly, Little 10 is on the first floor. Could it be? Dan Kong didn't finish his sentence, but he knew very well what was going on. Until now, the Little 10 they were talking about had not contacted them. The result was obvious. Crack. Thinking of this, Dan Kang's already cold face became even colder. Kill. Clenching his fists, Dan Kong said coldly, I'd like to see how capable he is to dare to trespass the Myriad Bone Cave. No rush. At this moment, Danhao calmed down. His eyes shot out a frightening light. Why? Dan Kong asked, confused. He didn't know what Danhao meant. One had to know that before the super strong Dan puppet left the Myriad Bone Cave, he had seriously warned the top few geniuses to watch over the Myriad Bone Cave. However, the top few geniuses couldn't bear the loneliness and left one after another for the Thousand Leaf Empire. In the end, only Dan Kong, Danhao, and the 10th ranked Dan puppet were left in the Myriad Bone Cave. The heavy responsibility of guarding the Myriad Bone Cave naturally fell on Dan Kang's shoulders. One could imagine that if the Myriad Bone Cave was completely breached, he would be severely injured even if he didn't die when the experts returned. The first and second floors' forbidden formations haven't been activated, but that doesn't mean the third floors won't be activated. Danhao said confidently, The third floor belongs to you, 8th brother. You can activate the forbidden formation now and trap that expert. All right. Dan Kang's eyes brightened. This was a good idea. If he activated the forbidden formation first, that intermediate grade 5 human supreme would not be able to retreat or enter. I'll activate the formation first. You quickly control the puppet. It has the battle power of an advanced grade 9 human supreme. Leaving these words, Dan Kong sat down cross-legged and waved his hands, starting to activate the forbidden formation of the third floor. It's Ningyu. Actually, when Ningyu just entered the Myriad Bone Cave, The Dark Sovereign already discovered Ningyu's aura. It was just that he did not dare to be certain. As Ningyu fought his way to the second level of the Myriad Bone Cave, the Dark Emperor finally confirmed that the newcomer was indeed Ningyu. I have to think of a way to warn Ningyu that he must be careful of the forbidden Grand Array. The Dark Emperor forced out a drop of essence blood from his body and carefully refined it, attempting to communicate with Ningyu. Pucci. However, just as the Dark Emperor refined the blood essence, he spat out a large mouthful of dark red blood. Indeed, it's related to you. If I've guessed correctly, that 5th grade middle phase human sovereign should be the Ningyu that you mentioned. Dan Kong suddenly stood up and stared at the Dark Emperor. He said coldly, "Do you think the cage of the Thousand Bone Cave is so easy to break? Truth be told, even an Earth Sovereign wouldn't be able to send their perception out. As for you, just obediently stay here. We will capture Ningyu and reunite the two of you." Oomph. The Dark Emperor coldly snorted and did not speak. The Dark Emperor knew that whatever he said right now was unnecessary. Since there was no point in talking, he might as well conserve his strength and wait for Ningyu to come over to deal with the two Danzhongs. The Dark Emperor was confident in Ningyu. He knew that Ningyu had the World Tree sapling that could restrain Danzhongs. Although the World Tree sapling often stood Ningyu up, at this crucial moment, the World Tree sapling would definitely let bygones be bygones and deal with Danzhongs. Furthermore, Danzhongs were great nourishment for the World Tree sapling, so there was no reason for the World Tree sapling to not make a move. Eighth brother, have you already activated the 3rd level's Grand Array? Dan Hao came before Dan Kong and asked. Nodding his head, Dan Kong said, "The forbidden Grand Array has already been activated. No matter how talented he is, he will still be killed by the forbidden Grand Array. I've already gained complete control of this puppet. In my opinion, we should go up and take a look just in case something happens." Dan Hao is a cautious person. "Ha, what's there to worry about? Since you have this idea, let's go now." Laughing loudly, Dan Kong stomped his feet on the ground and walked straight out of the secret chamber. This was the Myriad Bone Cave's prison. There was a killing Grand Array laid down here. Even Dan Kong and Dan Zhongs, these two geniuses, did not dare to borrow the power of space to fight. Go. Sooner or later, we will all be killed by Ningyu," the Dark Emperor said viciously, wishing that he could immediately go up and finish off the two of them. Ningyu is a weird person with many secrets. Now that the Myriad Bone Cave was empty the way the Dark Emperor saw it, Ningyu would very likely kill his way here. Buzz. At the entrance of the Myriad Bone Cave's 3rd level, Ningyu floated in midair. The red fiend sword in his hand gave off a buzzing sound. Ningyu did not continue to attack. Instead, he stared at the transparent Grand Array in front of him. Just now, Ningyu had already communicated with the World Tree sapling, wanting it to come forward and crack the forbidden Grand Array. But regrettably, the World Tree sapling swallowed too much energy and just happened to fall into a deep slumber at this time. As for how long, the World Tree sapling's answer was 3 minutes. Ningyu's face was full of speechlessness. 3 minutes? It was not that he could not afford to wait, but he was afraid that the Dark Emperor could not afford to wait. He could sense that the Dark Emperor was in the deepest parts of the Myriad Bone Cave. But no matter what, he had no way of contacting the Dark Emperor. Each time his perception passed through layers of obstacles and arrived in front of a secret room, it was as if he encountered something terrifying, causing his perception to be unable to advance in the slightest. Perception, soul force. Ningyu used them all. He just had no way of contacting the Dark Emperor. It bodes ill rather than well. Sucking in a deep breath, Ningyu muttered to himself. The current situation was very clear. As long as the World Tree sapling woke up, he could kill his way to the 4th level. Now that there was a forbidden Grand Array, it was a little unrealistic for him to want to forcefully break it open. I can only wait. Sucking in a deep breath, Ningyu started to refine the enormous energy in his sea of consciousness. On the 2nd level of the Myriad Bone Cave, many Yuan Shidan puppets have been killed by him and the Horn Puppet. Although most of them have been devoured by the World Tree sapling, the The remaining energy still filled Ning Yu's sea of consciousness to the brim. It was showing signs of a breakthrough. Could it be that I have accumulated enough? That I can break through to the later stages of the 5th level Supreme Martial Artist? Ning Yu was a little suspicious. He sent a portion of his perception into his sea of consciousness and started to slowly inspect it. Hiss! Ning Yu sucked in a breath of cold air when he saw the results of the inspection. The reason why Ning Yu was surprised was not because someone had left a mark in his sea of consciousness, but because the energy in his sea of consciousness had reached a critical point. As long as he refined all the remaining energy, he could immediately advance to the later stages of the 5th level Supreme Martial Artist. Why not give it a try? Ning Yu looked left and right, then sent a portion of his perception to search the surroundings. Finally, he found that the horned puppet was guarding the exit of the 3rd level. As for him, he began to devour the remaining energy in his sea of consciousness. Kacha! The spirit transformation technique quickly circulated, and Ning Yu quickly and efficiently devoured all the energy in his sea of consciousness. Rumble. Chapter 1272. Kill. Dan Kong. Dan Hao. Dan Shi walked out of the formation. It was none other than Dan Kong and Dan Hao. How dare you? Dan Kong locked his eyes on Ning Yu. Kneel down and kowed out to me a few times. Then, let me devour you. Otherwise, I'll execute you on the spot. Break through. Ning Yu did not answer Dan Kang's question. Instead, he devoted himself to his cultivation. He was at the crucial moment of breaking through to late-stage 5th grade Human Supreme. He could not be disturbed. Otherwise, all his previous efforts would be wasted. He would not be able to break through anytime soon. You're courting death. Dan Kang's eyes turned cold when he saw that Ning Yu was ignoring him. He stomped on the ground and charged forward. Dan Kang's speed was very fast, so fast that it was terrifying. Almost instantly, Dan Kong arrived before Ning Yu. He raised his right fist and punched at Ning Yu's head. Brat, your stupidity will cause your bloodline to be uprooted, Dan Kong said darkly, as if he could see Ning Yu's brain being blown apart. Bang! Dan Kang's fist met with an obstruction. A puppet? At the crucial moment, the puppet blocked the punch for Ning Yu. Dan Kong was indeed the 8th-ranked genius of the Myriad Bone Cave. He was extraordinarily powerful. He forced the puppet back several meters with a single punch. The puppet was a late-stage 9th-grade Human Supreme. From this, one could see how terrifying Dan Kang's strength was. Brother Ba, leave the puppet to me. Dan Hao stepped forward and controlled the Golden Leo to charge forward. Through the exchange just now, Dan Hao had already determined that the puppet had the combat power of a late-stage 9th-grade Human Supreme. If Dan Kong fought it head-on, he might be in trouble. Rumble. The Golden Leo also had the combat power of a late-stage 9th-grade Human Supreme. Neither side could do anything to the other. All right, Brother Ba, we'll work together to take down this puppet. We'll have another thing to rely on when we go to the Thousand Leaf Empire. Dan Hao was overjoyed. The single-horned puppet's battle prowess was extraordinary. If he could take it, his and Dan Kang's battle prowess would not be any weaker than Dan Ming's, who was ranked 3rd in the Myriad Bone Cave. No problem. Dan Kong gave up on Ning Yu and turned to attack the horned puppet. Give me 2 more minutes. Ning Yu's heart was unperturbed. He was very calm. Right now, it was a crucial moment for him to break through to the late-phase 5th grade sovereign realm. He couldn't afford to think about those messy things. Otherwise, all his previous efforts might go to waste. Activating the spirit transformation art to the extreme, terrifying energy moved around Ning Yu's body. At this time, Ning Yu was slowly floating in the air in a completely ethereal state. Fortunately, Dan Kong and Dan Hao were busy dealing with the horned puppet, wanting to subdue it. Otherwise, if one of them had the time to deal with Ning Yu would be dead for sure. The ethereal state was very rare, but its defense was almost 0. Ha ha! Time ticked by, and in the blink of an eye, 2 minutes had passed. Far away, Dan Kong grabbed the horned puppet's arm and laughed. The horned puppet is indeed extraordinary. Its battle strength should be slightly stronger than the Golden Leo. With it, my battle strength will at least double. Congratulations, eighth brother. Keeping the Golden Leo, Dan Howe said, as long as you remove the mark in the puppet's mind, you can control it. There's no rush. Let's deal with the troublesome Ning Yu first. Waving his hand, Dan Kong said, since he dared to come to our myriad bone cave, he must have a lot of treasures on him. We got lucky. Is that so? At this moment, Ning Yu suddenly opened his eyes, and a terrifying aura soared into the sky. Ning Yu's eyes were bright, and he said in a low voice, let me give you a piece of advice. Return the horn puppet and the Golden Leo to me, or I'll let you know why flowers are red. Have you lost your mind? Although Ning Yu's aura was a little terrifying, Dan Kong did not take it to heart. No matter how strong your aura is, you're only a late 5th grade Supreme. Dan Kong was confident that he could kill a late 5th grade Supreme within 3 moves. Forget it. Against a foolish human like you, I'll just kill you and eat you. Glancing at Ning Yu with disdain, Dan Kong dashed out. Dan Kong was confident that he could kill Ning Yu, so he did not let Dan Hao and the Golden Leo follow. Ning Yu, I'll let you know that the Myriad Bone Cave is not that easy to barge into. Dan Kong said coldly. The reason why you could pass the first 2 levels was because Old 10 and Little 9 were not there. Now that I'm in charge of the 3rd level, I'll definitely kill you. Take my punch. Dan Kang's body glowed brightly, and his right fist contained a terrifying aura as it punched towards Ning Yu's head. So what if I take your punch? The corners of Ning Yu's mouth curled up. He wrapped his Yuan Qi around his fist and threw a punch. Bang! The 2 fists collided with a loud bang. With the point of collision as the center, a terrifying shockwave spread out in all directions. Oh no! The shockwave was so terrifying that even Dan Hao was a little shocked, and he quickly retreated into the forbidden formation. At the same time, Dan Hao shouted, Eighth brother, retreat. Retreat? Can he even leave? The life-threatening voice sounded again. Ning Yu walked in the air, waving his fists continuously. Bang, bang, bang. Every time Ning Yu threw a punch, there would be a crisp sound. Go to hell. After slapping Dan Kong dozens of times, Ning Yu finally retracted his palm. The reason why Ning Yu retracted his palm was not because he wanted to let Dan Kong go, but because he wanted to kill Dan Kong. 10,000 holy flag. 10,000 beast flame. With a flick of his finger, a flag and a ball of flame flew out. Oh no! The flag and the flame gradually expanded in Dan Kang's eyes, and finally crashed into his head. The flame of 10,000 beasts corroded Dan Kang's consciousness, and the 10,000 holy flag prevented Dan Kong from escaping. Although Dan Kong was an Yuan Qi pill puppet, Ning Yu was still worried, afraid that he was a combination of Yuan Qi pill puppet and soul pill puppet. The result proved that Ning Yu was overthinking. The flame of 10,000 beasts ignited Dan Kang's consciousness, and his entire body exploded. Ning Yu did not intend to refine Dan Kang's Yuan Qi pill puppet. His plan was simple. He would first capture the other pill puppet and force out the Dark Emperor's whereabouts. This was the most important matter, and he could not afford to make any mistakes. You killed 8th brother. Dan Hao had already retreated into the forbidden formation. He pointed at Ning Yu with his right hand and said in shock, You are not a mid-stage, 5th grade supreme martial artist. Which old monster are you? Why must you become enemies with the Myriad Bone Cave? Dan Hao did not believe that Ning Yu was a mid-stage, 5th grade supreme martial artist. No, he did not believe that Ning Yu was a late-stage, 5th grade supreme martial artist. How could a late-stage, 5th grade supreme martial artist be so strong, killing Dan Kong in the first exchange? Although Dan Hao was strong, he was only slightly stronger than Dan Kong. Chapter 1273. Chapter 1273. Chapter 1273 to feign civility. 8th brother? What a strange name. Shrugging, Ning Yu said, I'll give you a chance to live. Give me back Gene 2 and the single horn puppet, and I'll spare your life. Ning Yu, am a man of my word. As long as you listen to me, I promise I won't kill you. Dan Hao's face darkened when he heard Ning Yu's words. Dan Hao was pondering how he could defeat Ning Yu, or even kill Ning Yu. It was impossible to fight him head-on. He could only lure Ning Yu into the forbidden Grand Array and then use the Golden Banshee to kill him. Although they had worked together to erase the mark in the single-horned puppet's mind, he hadn't left a mark on it, so he couldn't control it for the time being. Damn it! If I could control the single-horned puppet, I wouldn't be afraid of you, Dan Hao said viciously. Both the horned puppet and the golden Leo possessed the battle prowess of a late-stage 9th-grade sovereign. Dan Hao believed that if the two of them attacked together, Ning Yu would definitely not be able to resist. However, given the current situation, Dan Hao could only first stabilize Ning Yu and think of a way to trick Ning Yu into the Grand Taboo Array. Ning Yu, it's not impossible for me to listen to you. Let's talk inside. After leaving behind these words, Dan Hao turned around and left, retreating to the 3rd level of the Myriad Bone Cave. Dan Kong had already activated the forbidden formation of the 3rd layer of the Myriad Bone Cave. Furthermore, he had activated the strongest forbidden formation. Dan Hao didn't believe that Ning Yu could contend with him in such a terrifying Grand Taboo formation. As long as you come in, I will definitely kill you. Dan Hao entered the depths of the 3rd floor without looking back. A cold expression appeared on his face. As you wish. Ning Yu was very clear about the formidability of the Forbidden Array, so he did not act rashly. Instead, he paused on the spot for another 30 seconds before striding into the Forbidden Array. With the sapling around, these taboo Grand Arrays wouldn't be able to affect Ning Yu. Rumble. Ning Yu had just stepped into the Forbidden Grand Array when the weather suddenly changed. Strong winds blew all around, sending sand and pebbles flying. Ha ha! Following that, a loud laugh came from the depths of the Forbidden Array. I knew it would be you. Ning Yu narrowed his eyes and said, Do you really think this formation can trap me? Of course. After laughing, Dan Hao said, There are many forbidden formations in the Myriad Bone Cave. These formations have fatal restraining effects on humans. As long as you are a human, your battle prowess will drop by 90% in the promotion formations. As for me, my battle prowess will increase by 90%. How can you possibly be a match for me? Ha 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 ha. Dan Hao laughed heartily again, as if he had everything planned out in the bag. Do you really think you could defeat me? Ning Yu did not expose the sapling immediately. He looked around and said, If you come to your senses now, I can let bygones be bygones and spare your life. You're still so stubborn even at death's door. In terms of bragging, I admire you the most, Dan Hao said disdainfully. Then, Dan Hao controlled the Golden Two and charged at Ning Yu. I'll teach you a lesson first. Whoosh. The Golden Two was already under Dan Hao's control and completely obeyed his orders. Dan Hao's mission was to teach Ning Yu a lesson, but not to kill him. The Golden Two did as he was told and began fighting fiercely with Ning Yu. Bang! With just one move, Ning Yu was sent flying and slammed heavily into the barrier of the Forbidden Formation. The Forbidden Formation is indeed powerful. It suppressed my strength to only 10%. Ning Yu was shocked. The Forbidden Formation was indeed powerful. Inside, his strength was greatly suppressed, and he could only use 10% of his peak battle prowess. On the other hand, Dan Hao's aura was extremely terrifying. Sapling, hurry and break this Forbidden Formation. Ning Yu did not want to be attacked by the Golden Two again. He hurriedly communicated with the sapling and told it to break the formation. No problem. The sapling's voice sounded in Ning Yu's mind. Kacha! An extremely clear sound rang out. The barrier around the Forbidden Formation gradually cracked, and the cracks grew larger and larger. Finally, the entire Forbidden Formation completely disappeared. What? Dan Hao was originally very excited when he saw Ning Yu being forced back by the Golden Tuesday. But the situation of the Forbidden Formation made his heart sink to the bottom. This is impossible. How could you break the Forbidden Formation? Dan Hao shouted crazily. He did not dare to believe what had happened in front of him. Nothing is impossible. At this moment, Ning Yu quietly appeared in front of Dan Hao. He stretched out his right hand and grabbed Dan Hao's neck. Don't move. If you dare to move, I'll break your neck. What do you want? Dan Hao quickly calmed down and did not panic because he was in Ning Yu's hands. Very good. Let me ask you, where is the Dark Emperor? Ning Yu asked. Who is the Dark Emperor? Could it be the purple gold sky devouring dog? He's trapped in the deepest part of the Myriad Bone Cave. If you want to see him, I can bring you there. Dan Hao hurriedly said. I will naturally go there. But before I go, I need to take back my two puppets. Ning Yu exerted some force with his wrist and separated a bit of his soul force into the puppet's mind. At the same time, Ning Yu separated another bit of his soul force into Jin Tu's mind. There was no other person's imprint in the puppet's mind. Ning Yu only spent a few seconds to regain control of it. As for Jin Tu, he brought a lot of trouble to Ning Yu. Behave yourself. Ning Yu released all his aura and pressed down on Dan Hao, warning him not to play any tricks. Ning Yu's action was very effective. Dan Hao became obedient, and Ning Yu naturally erased Dan Hao's imprint in Jin Tu's mind and left his own. After a few minutes, Ning Yu regained control of Jin Tu and the puppet. Take me to the Dark Emperor. To prevent Dan Hao from playing any tricks, Ning Yu sealed Dan Hao's cultivation. At the same time, he left a bit of soul force in Dan Hao's mind when he wasn't paying attention. Although the World Tree sapling said that there was no powerful Dan Hao in the Myriad Bone Cave, Ning Yu was still not at ease. One corpse puppet was far from enough. Ning Yu's goal was to save the Dark Emperor and squeeze the Myriad Bone Cave dry. He naturally needed a second trump card. Don't think I don't know you're pretending. Ning Yu could basically guess what Dan Hao was thinking. A peerless genius like him would not be so obedient. There must be something wrong when something was out of the ordinary. This meant that Dan Hao had some kind of plan or was digging a trap for Ning Yu and waiting for Ning Yu to jump in. However, Ning Yu wasn't too worried, since the sapling of the World Tree had a fatal restraining effect on Dan Shi unless a pinnacle 9th grade sovereign or an Earth sovereign realm Dan Shi appeared. It would be extremely difficult to kill him. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. Dan Hao brought Ning Yu through the first few levels of the Myriad Bone Cave and quickly arrived at the deepest secret room. The Dark Emperor you speak of is imprisoned in this secret room. Chapter 1274. Chapter 1274. Chapter 1274. Key. Open the secret room. Ning Yu said expressionlessly. I can't open the door. Shaking his head, as if feeling that he had not explained himself clearly, he continued, My cultivation has been sealed by you, so there's no way for me to open the door to the secret chamber. Bang! Ning Yu's face turned cold. He raised his right foot and kicked Dan Hao, sending him flying far away. You have no choice. Ning Yu's aura locked onto Dan Hao. Open the door or die. All right, I'll open the door. Even though he was furious, Dan Hao didn't dare show it. He took out a golden spoon and inserted it into the keyhole on the door. Creak! The heavy door of the secret chamber slowly opened. Dan Hao was closer to the door than Ning Yu. The moment the door opened, he ran into the secret room. You want to leave? Ning Yu's eyes and hands were sharp. He stepped on the ground and quickly chased after them. Bang! With his cultivation sealed, Dan Hao's speed was greatly reduced. It only took Ning Yu a second to catch up to him. He grabbed the horn puppet and smashed it at Dan Hao. Little bastard, you'll die a horrible death. Stop smashing. I admit defeat. I surrender. I'll release the Dark Emperor and tell you where the Myriad Bone Cave's treasures are. In order to make Ning Yu stop, Dan Hao would say anything. Where is the Dark Emperor? Ning Yu only stopped when his arm was slightly swollen. He tossed the horned puppet aside and said, This is your last chance. Why aren't you playing by the rules? Dan Hao was furious. The reason why he opened the door and ran was because he wanted Ning Yu to use his vital qi to deal with him. The order in this place wasn't particularly stable, so they couldn't use any powerful energy. Originally, Dan Hao wanted Ning Yu to use his powerful energy to kill him. This way, this place would crowd out Ning Yu, and he would kill Ning Yu on the spot. In the past, many powerhouses had struggled free from the chains on their bodies and used powerful energy to escape. However, without exception, all of them had been killed. Clearly, Dan Hao's plan had failed, because Ning Yu had simply used his physical strength to control the horned puppet to smash him. The Dark Emperor is in the innermost secret chamber. Dan Hao became more obedient, he said. Lead the way. This was Ning Yu's first time here, so he didn't know much about this place. He decided to let Dan Hao lead the way. In any case, Dan Hao's cultivation was sealed, and he had the sapling in his hands. He was confident in dealing with unknown dangers. The deeper he went, the more shocked Ning Yu became. There were many cages on both sides of the passageway, and each cage held an expert. Even the weakest among them was at the Supreme Being realm. Moreover, the deeper he went, the higher the cultivation of the experts imprisoned in the cages. Save me! Save me! Suddenly, an extremely soft voice entered Ning Yu's ears. Hearing this, Ning Yu stopped and looked in the direction of the voice. There was a cage in the corner. It was pitch black, and the voice came from there. From the voice, Ning Yu could tell that the being in the cage was extremely weak and could die at any moment. Who was imprisoned in that cage? Ning Yu said in a low voice. That cage? Dan Hao was startled at first, then said, I don't know the details. Ever since I entered the Myriad Bone Cave, he has been imprisoned in that cage. And until now, not many people in the Myriad Bone Cave have seen his true appearance. Crack! Ning Yu kicked Dan Hao's knee, breaking several of his kneecaps. He said, Tell me the truth. With his kneecaps broken, Dan Hao let out a hysterical howl. Enduring the pain, Dan Hao said, I really don't know who is imprisoned in there, but I heard the forefather mention him. Dan Hao originally wanted to be stubborn, but when he saw Ning Yu raise his right foot, he instantly changed his mind. The forefather said that he is a fierce person who once killed tens of thousands of pill puppets with his own strength. There was no lack of peak, 9th grade human supremes among them. He even killed a few Earth Supremes. What? He killed even Earth Supremes? Ning Yu said in shock. An expert who could kill Earth Supremes? Didn't that mean that his cultivation had reached the Earth Supremes level? His cultivation is not Earth Supremes. As if guessing Ning Yu's thoughts, Dan Hao said, According to the rumors, he was only an early 9th grade human Supremes when he killed Earth Supremes Dan Shi. He had something on him that had a fatal restraining effect on Dan Shi, unfortunately. That battle was too brutal. Although he escaped, his memory was damaged, and that thing was lost. Rescue him. The thing that he lost is a branch of the World Tree. Right at that moment, the World Tree sapling's voice sounded in Ning Yu's ears. The sapling's words made Ning Yu's heart beat faster. The World Tree. This was the second time Ning Yu had heard about the World Tree after obtaining it. Are you sure? Ning Yu secretly transmitted his voice to the sapling. I'm sure. As long as you can help me get that branch, I can guarantee your smooth escape from the Myriad Bone Cave, the sapling said. What the hell? Ning Yu jumped up. So, you were the one who led me here? You knew there was news about the World Tree here? I didn't lead you here. You were the one who wanted to save the Dark Emperor, the sapling said. Also, I didn't know that this place was dangerous, nor did I know there was news about the World Tree here. Right, you said you can guarantee my smooth escape from the Myriad Bone Cave. What do you mean? Is there a powerful Dan Shi in the Myriad Bone Cave? Ning Yu asked doubtfully. Dan Shi's clone. The sapling explained, although I can kill it, I can't attack it. You should know the consequences if I'm exposed. Tell me honestly, how powerful is your battle strength? Ning Yu asked after a moment of silence. I know what you're thinking. Anyway, if you save the person in the cage, I will guarantee your smooth escape from the Myriad Bone Cave. I will also help you unconditionally once in the future. The World Tree said as if it could read Ning Yu's mind. Deal. Ning Yu is not an unreasonable person. He agreed to the sapling. Ever since the sapling could speak, it gave Ning Yu a terrifying feeling. Ning Yu also had another concern. He was afraid that the sapling would suddenly attack him. Taking a deep breath, Ning Yu said to Dan Hao, Open that cage and let him out. Since the sapling could save the person in the cage, it meant that it had a way to suppress it. I really can't do that, Dan Hao said with a sad face. The key to this cage is in the forefather's hands. In this vast Myriad Bone Cave, only the forefather can open this cage. Save me, clone. The illusory voice came from the cage again. Chapter 1275. Chapter 1275. Chapter 1275 Attack. Clone. Key. Save me. The voice became clearer and clearer. In the end, even Dan Howe and the other martial artists in the cages could hear it. However, when the other martial artists in the cages heard the voice, they all cowered to the side, not even daring to breathe loudly. Humph! Blood Demon Sovereign, if you don't tell me where that thing is, don't even think about leaving the Thousand Bone Cave. At this moment, a cold snort sounded. Buzz. Then, the void cracked, and an old man in gray robes walked out of the void. The elder's speed seemed slow, but it was not. The elder arrived in front of the cage in an instant. He suddenly punched with his right hand, and a terrifying fist aura flew out, hitting the cage. Poochie. The elder's attack was extremely powerful, directly causing the martial artists in the cage to vomit blood. Ancestor, save me. Seeing the elder, Dan Howe could not help but cry out. Behave yourself. Ningyu kicked Dan Howe, causing him to fall to the ground. You. Dan Howe trembled in anger. He wanted to stand up, but his legs were trembling, and he could not stand. Very good. You even dare to bully people from the Thousand Bone Cave. Kid, I want to see what you can rely on. The elder did not immediately go to save Dan Howe, but said in a low voice. The gray-clothed old man was also afraid of Ningyu. He could feel an extremely terrifying aura from Ningyu. This aura made his heart tremble, and he did not dare to act recklessly. Before he understood the situation, he would not act rashly, because the Blood Demon Sovereign was the most important. Compared to the Blood Demon Sovereign, Dan Howe could be abandoned. Sapling, is this elder a clone? Ningyu did not have time to answer the elder. At this moment, he was communicating with the sapling. Yes, this is a clone, but it is very powerful. Do not underestimate it, the sapling said in a serious tone. How confident are you that you could defeat him? Ningyu knew the severity of the problem. I am not confident, the sapling said. Oh my God, Ningyu was shocked. In the end, the sapling didn't have the confidence to defeat the gray-robed old man. According to his observations, although the gray-robed elder was only a clone, he could unleash the battle prowess of a pinnacle 9th-grade human sovereign. With his strength, not to mention dealing with the gray-robed elder, it would be difficult for him to even block a single move. After all, a peak 9th-grade human supreme was far stronger than a late 9th-grade human supreme. Jean and the single-horn puppet should be able to hold him off for a minute. I must use this minute to find the Dark Emperor and quickly leave with him. Ningyu rolled his eyes as he thought of a countermeasure. He couldn't rely on the sapling anymore. Since that was the case, he had to find an opportunity to slip away. Although I don't have the confidence to beat him, you do. The sapling's words rang in Ningyu's ears again. Hearing that, Ningyu was slightly stunned. He did not know what the sapling was trying to do. Speak clearly. Ningyu's face was filled with black lines. He had been worried for nothing. This is only the elder's clone, so I cannot expose myself. Otherwise, even you will be killed. The sapling explained, I will enter the red demon sword. When the time comes, you will use the red demon sword to fight against the gray-robed elder. I will secretly help you. Swoosh! Without waiting for Ningyu's reply, the sapling turned into a shadow and quietly entered the red demon sword. Damn it! You want me to fight against a pinnacle 9th-grade human supreme? Ningyu was so angry that his lungs were about to explode. He was only a late 5th-grade human supreme. Even if the sapling entered the red demon sword, it would be difficult for it to be a match for a pinnacle 9th-grade human supreme. Kiki, Kid Die. The gray-robed elder seemed to have understood and charged out with a roar. Damn it! Ningyu's original intention was to first think of a way to save the Dark Emperor and then escape. He did not want to fight against the gray-robed elder. However, the current situation did not allow him to think too much. He could only bite the bullet and fight the gray-robed elder. Get up. Since he had decided to make a move, Ningyu quickly calmed down. He kicked Dan Howe's head, knocking him out cold. Grabbing Dan Howe's arm with his right hand, Ningyu exerted a bit of force and swung him toward the gray-robed elder. Old fart, let's see what you can do. With Danhao in hand, the world was mine. Ningyu did not believe that the gray-robed elder would abandon a peerless genius like Danhao. You're courting death. The result was beyond Ning Yu's expectations. The gray-robed elder's punch landed squarely on Danhao's head. Rumble. Danhao was only a mid-stage, 5th-grade human supreme. Moreover, he had already been knocked out by Ning Yu's kick. How could he block the gray-robed elder's attack? The gray-robed elder's punch directly exploded Danhao's head. Brutal indeed. Casually tossing Danhao aside, Ningyu leaped back to the front of the cage. The gray-robed elder could even bear to kill Danhao, let alone him. Hey, you asked me to save you. Hurry up and tell me how to deal with this old man. Ningyu hurriedly yelled at the cage. Unless you have the Tree of World on you, there's no way you can deal with this old man. Sai, it's all my fault. I should have known that this old man would leave a doppelganger behind. I was too careless. A sigh came from the cage, seemingly filled with regret. What's the use of thinking about this now? I don't believe that I can't hurt you without the Tree of World. Ningyu pretended to be furious. Immediately, he took out the red demon's sword and slashed out a sword gleam at the gray-robed elder. Child's play. Looking at the sword gleams that kept coming at him, the gray-robed elder's lips curled up. He did not think much of the sword gleams. He casually flicked his sleeves, and a cold gleam flew out as well. Puss-pissed. The cold gleam and the sword gleam collided and quickly dissipated. Kid, let me see what secrets you have on you. Oh no. After dispersing the cold gleam, the gray-robed elder reached out with his right hand and grabbed forward. The gray-robed elder's arm grew longer and longer. Finally, he opened his palm and grabbed at Ningyu. However, the gray-robed elder's arm had just grown several meters long when his expression changed drastically. He hurriedly tried to retract his arm. Clearly, the gray-robed elder's speed was half a beat slower. The sword gleam that Ningyu slashed out did not completely dissipate. There was still a palm-sized sword gleam hidden in the void. Gotcha! When the gray-robed elder's palm arrived, the sword gleam suddenly shot out and quickly slashed at the gray-robed elder's arm. A crisp sound rang out, and the result shocked Ningyu. The gray-robed elder's arm was chopped off by the palm-sized sword gleam. Piss-pissed. Piss-pissed. The arm fell to the ground and instantly disappeared. With his arm chopped off, the gray-robed elder was like a ferocious beast as he raised his head and roared. You've completely infuriated me. After roaring, the gray-robed elder's eyes locked onto Ningyu. His cold voice rang out in the area. After so many years, you're the first human to infuriate me. In order to reward you, I've decided to eat you. Gulp. Not only was the gray-robed elder shocked, but even Ningyu himself was so shocked that he could not speak. He could only swallow a mouthful of saliva. The sapling was so powerful. Just a single sword gleam had chopped off the gray-robed elder's arm. Chapter 1276. Both sides suffer at the thought of this. Ningyu was not worried by the roar of the gray-robed elder. Instead, he stared at the red demon's sword with a fiery gaze. Although the gray-robed elder was a doppelganger, he was a peak 9th-grade human supreme. Once he could completely devour and refine it, Ningyu could even advance further and advance to a peak 5th-grade human supreme. Yuan Qi Dan Ho was very different from humans. They were formed from Yuan Qi, and the Yuan Qi in their bodies was extremely pure. For warriors, it was like a miraculous elixir. It could be said that Ningyu devouring 10 peak 9th-grade human supreme was not as good as devouring a Dan Ho of the same cultivation level. So strong. We can leave now. Even if I have to give up all the treasures, I want to leave this damn Myriad Bone Cave. That's right. We've been trapped in the Myriad Bone Cave for decades, and some have even been trapped here for hundreds of years. This is the best chance. We must kill this doppelganger of Supreme Bone. Seeing Ningyu chop off Supreme Bone's arm, the warriors trapped in the cages began to think. Some of them had been trapped here for a year, while others have been trapped here for more than a decade. There were even 2 peak 9th grade human supreme who had been trapped here for hundreds of years. With Ningyu's strength, they might be able to fish in troubled waters and successfully escape. As the saying went, as long as there was hope, humans could always burst forth with astonishing potential. Let's use all our strength to attack the chains on our bodies and lend our friend a hand. Yes, yes, yes. The chains on our bodies were created by Supreme Bone's great magical powers. As long as we use all our strength to attack the chains, Supreme Bone will definitely be affected. That's right. Although it's difficult to break the chains, we can create trouble for Supreme Bone and reduce the strength of his doppelganger. The help of the warriors in the cages was beyond Ningyu's expectations. It seemed that their edges had not been sharpened, and there was still hope in the depths of their hearts. The cultivators in the cages charged at the chains, and very soon they saw results. Supreme Bone's doppelganger spat out a mouthful of blood, and his face turned pale. Good, very good. You have completely angered me. Today all of you must die. Wiping the blood from the corner of his mouth, Supreme Bone's cold eyes swept across the crowd and finally landed on Ningyu. Brat, you're the most arrogant one. I'll start with you. Old fart. You're already at death's door, yet you still want to attack me? Ningyu said confidently. Let me give you a piece of advice. Hurry up and scram. If you don't leave now, you should know the consequences. Ha ha ha. Venerable Bone roared with laughter as he coldly said, I, Venerable Bone, have roamed the continent for 100 years. Although I'm injured, it's still easy for me to kill a mere late-phase 5th grade sovereign like you. As soon as the word yes was uttered, Guzi moved. I'll slash. Although Ningyu looked down on Supreme Bone verbally, he did not let his guard down. As soon as Supreme Bone made his move, he waved the red demon's sword and slashed out another sword radiance. Break. Facing this sword radiance, Supreme Bone did not dare to be negligent as he flicked his wrist repeatedly. In an instant, dozens of cold radiance flew out. Holy shit! Seeing Supreme Bone shooting out dozens of cold radiance in an instant, Ningyu's face drastically changed. No matter how powerful the sword radiance he had slashed out was, even with the help of the sapling, it would still be hard to resist against so many cold radiances. I miscalculated. Ningyu felt a little regretful. Originally, seeing how powerful the cold radiance thrown out by Supreme Bone was, Ningyu thought that he could only throw out 2 to 3 of them. The sapling could still resist 2 to 3 cold radiance. Dozens of cold radiance. This was an extremely terrifying number that even the sapling found it difficult to deal with. Avoid the sharp edge. Knowing that he couldn't disperse the dozens of cold radiance, Ningyu decided to avoid the sharp edge and quickly retreated. The direction that Ningyu retreated towards was the deepest part of the secret chamber, the secret chamber where the Dark Emperor was. You guys blocked for me for a while. In the process of escaping, Ningyu did not forget to bring out the Golden Leo and the one-horned puppet, hoping that they could buy him enough time. Crack! Crack! The result made Ningyu dumbfounded. The Golden Leo and the one-horned puppet, the 2 puppets with the strength of a 9th grade supreme martial artist, could not even resist for a second before they completely fell apart. However, it was worth it for them to fall apart. In order to disperse the Golden Leo and the one-horned puppet, Supreme Bone had consumed a total of 30 to 40 cold radiance. In other words, there were less than 10 cold radiance left by Supreme Bone. What the hell are you running for? Kill. The sacrifice of the Golden Leo and the one-horned puppet shocked Ningyu. However, Ningyu was very smart. He instantly decided not to run away, but waved the red demon sword backhandedly, and several sword radiance flew out. Crack, crack, crack. Ningyu slashed out a total of more than 10 sword radiance. 10 of the sword radiance contained the powerful attack of the sapling, while the remaining sword radiance was just to distract Supreme Bone. This time, Supreme Bone was careless and fell into Ningyu's trap. More than half of the cold radiance brought by Supreme Bone was lost in an instant, and the remaining cold radiance was also blasted away. Why is it coming this way? Run, 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 run. A few of the cold radiance blasted on the remaining cages, killing the martial artists in them. In an instant, the entire secret chamber became quiet. The martial artists who were clamoring to leave the secret chamber stopped shouting and obediently rolled to the corner and squatted down, for fear of being reprimanded by Supreme Bone. If I'm not wrong, there should be a treasure in that flying sword of yours. Give it to me, and I can imprison you here without killing you. Supreme Bone said in a deep voice. Have you lost your mind? Ningyu said, your cold radiance has been completely used up, and I still have the red demon sword in my hand. If you're not satisfied, you can come and kill me. With the red demon sword in hand, Ningyu looked like he was about to compete with Supreme Bone. In fact, Ningyu was betting that Supreme Bone would not dare to act rashly. This was because just now, the sapling had told Ningyu through telepathy that it needed some time to recuperate. During this period of time, it might not be able to help Ningyu, so it asked Ningyu to hold on until it regained consciousness. Do you really think I dare not kill you? Supreme Bone took a step forward, and a terrifying aura burst out of his body, pressing down on Ningyu in a frenzy. Crack, crack. Under the pressure of Supreme Bone's powerful aura, Ningyu found it a little difficult to breathe. However, Ningyu knew very well that he had to pretend as if nothing had happened. Otherwise, if Supreme Bone found out, it would be difficult for him to escape death today. Ha ha ha. With a wild laugh, Ningyu said, Supreme Bone, I'm standing right here. Come and take my life if you can. Is he injured too? Supreme Bone withdrew his aura, feeling a little puzzled. In order to display so many cold radiances, Supreme Bone had sucked away all the Yuan Qi contained in this doppelganger. He could not act rashly for the time being. Kid, I won't take your life. I want you to kill each other. Suddenly, Supreme Bone seemed to have thought of something, and a cold radiance shot out from his eyes. Rumble. Chapter 1277. Chapter 1277. Battle Tyrant, Rise. Supreme Bone yelled as the cold light exploded. Rumble. As Supreme Bone's voice faded, a huge altar appeared above the secret chamber. The void trembled as the altar appeared. Swoosh, 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 swoosh. For huge pillars of light shot out from the altar and surrounded the entire secret room. Ceiling formation. It's the ceiling formation. Does Supreme Bone want to kill us all? We're doomed. I thought today was the best time to leave. Who would have thought that we would become food in someone else's mouth? Everyone was terrified. The so-called ceiling formation was used to seal off the entire area. It was the same as a normal seal. A normal seal would only seal off the area, preventing one from contacting the outside world. However, the ceiling formation could not only seal off the area, it could also isolate Yuan Qi. In other words, one could not use Yuan Qi within the ceiling formation. Otherwise, one would be killed by the formation. Whoever kills him, I will let them leave the Myriad Bone Cave. Supreme Bone's gaze swept across the crowd. Then he pointed at Ningyu and said coldly, You only have one chance. If you miss it, you won't get another chance. Rumble. Supreme Bone's words shook the hearts of many martial artists. They could leave the Myriad Bone Cave as long as they killed Ningyu. This news was too shocking. The extinguished flame in their hearts was reignited. You want to kill me? Ningyu's gaze was sharp as it swept across the crowd of martial artists. Being stared at by Ningyu, the crowd looked away, not daring to look at him directly. Ningyu's powerful strength made their hearts tremble. Even Supreme Bone did not dare to do it himself. It was enough to show that Ningyu was too powerful, so powerful that Supreme Bone needed their help. Kill. Supreme Bone, open the chains for me. Suddenly, a 7th grade Supreme Martial Artist yelled. Okay. A smear of cold light shot out from the eyes of the Venerable Bone as he swiftly clashed against the chains around the 7th grade Mortal Sovereign. Crack. The chains broke, and the 7th grade Supreme Martial Artist escaped from the cage. Sorry for the offense. After breaking free from the cage, the 7th grade Sovereign cupped his fists towards Ningyu and charged out like a cheetah towards Ningyu. There's nothing to offend. Shrugging, Ningyu clenched his right fist and punched out. Bang! The next moment, everyone cried out in alarm. Ningyu's fist collided with the 7th grade human sovereign's fist and sent him flying. Pucci, spurting out fresh blood, the aura of this 7th grade human sovereign dropped rapidly. In a short period of time, it had already dropped to the freezing point. The whole area became quiet. The fact that Ningyu was able to finish off a 7th grade human sovereign with a single punch had truly shocked them. From the looks of it, this 7th grade human supreme realm cultivator wouldn't be able to survive. Ningyu would never show mercy to his enemies. If he could kill them on the spot, he definitely wouldn't wait until later unless he had a use for them. As for this 7th grade human supreme realm cultivator, it was obvious that there was no use for him to stay. Therefore, Ningyu killed him with a single punch. He's not simple. His physical strength is so strong. That's right. This place is sealed by a sealing formation. He can't easily use his Yuan Qi, so he can only use his physical strength to fight. According to my observation, the toughness of his body is comparable to an 8th grade human supreme realm. Whoosh! The last warrior's words shocked everyone. A 5th grade advanced stage human supreme realm actually possessed the physical strength of an 8th grade human supreme realm. Look! All of a sudden, a martial artist yelled. Hearing his words, everyone turned their gazes over and looked at the 7th grade sovereign on the ground. Whoosh! A flag quickly flew out, and under the horrified gaze of the 7th grade human supreme realm, drilled into the center of his brows. Not long after, the 7th grade human supreme realm's body shriveled up and turned into a pile of dust. Gulp! This change made everyone's jaws drop as they gulped down a mouthful of saliva. Come back. Ningyu flicked his wrist and recalled the 10,000 ghosts sacred flag. Since this 7th grade human supreme realm wanted to kill him, then he should be prepared to be killed. Although he couldn't use his Yuan Qi, that didn't mean that Ningyu couldn't use the 10,000 ghosts sacred flag. Who else? Ningyu held the red demon sword in his left hand and the 10,000 ghosts sacred flag in his right as he proudly said, I don't mind turning you guys into ghosts. The martial artists in the cages all lowered their heads. The strength that Ningyu had just displayed made their hearts tremble. Even a few 8th grade human sovereigns did not dare to act recklessly. Damn it! Seeing that no one was willing to make a move, Venerable Bone cursed inwardly and clenched his teeth. I can provide convenience to anyone who is willing to make a move. Venerable Bone's voice was powerful and captivating. Some of the warriors below the 7th grade human sovereign realm were affected and looked like they were about to make a move. Who else? Ningyu slowly said. Initially, those warriors wanted to make a move. But when they thought of Ningyu's strength, they came to their senses. This is a sealing array. I can open a back door for you guys so that you won't be affected by the array. Supreme Bone said in a low voice, unwilling to give up unless his words were shocking. Supreme Bone's words stirred the minds of the crowd again. If they could use their Yuan Qi and Ningyu couldn't, then it would be clear who would win. I'll do it. With a great reward, there would always be someone brave. A pinnacle 8th grade human sovereign said. Break. Venerable Bone flicked his finger and a cold light flew out, unlocking the chains on the pinnacle 8th grade human sovereign. Buzz. The moment the chains on the pinnacle 8th grade human sovereign were unlocked, vigorous Yuan Qi gushed out from his body. Ha, I Zhanba. I've been trapped in a myriad bone cave for so long. I never thought that there would be a day where I could escape. Raising his head and laughing, Zhanba roared, fight, fight, fight. Fight with everything. Kill him, and I'll let you leave the myriad bone cave. Venerable Bone pointed at Ningyu. Okay. Zhanba stomped on the ground and charged at Ningyu in an instant. Facing the charging Zhanba, Ningyu didn't resist. Instead, he slowly closed his eyes. Damn, I should have made a move, but Zhanba beat me to it. That's right. You can use your essence here. Any grade 1 human sovereign would be able to kill Ningyu. Sigh. Looks like we're going to be trapped here in darkness again. In everyone's eyes, Ningyu is waiting for his death. Jean Ba regained his usual vigor. His fighting spirit soared, and his yuan qi was vigorous. It was said that Jean Ba was captured here because he fought 5 late-stage 9th-grade human sovereigns alone and killed them all. In the end, the Myriad Bone Cave sent 3 pinnacle 9th-grade human sovereigns to encircle and capture him. Now that Jean Ba had recovered to his peak, Ning Yu would definitely die. Kill. Jean Ba pointed with his finger. In an instant, the weather changed and the entire secret chamber turned dark. However, just when everyone thought that Ning Yu would definitely die, something unexpected happened. Jean Ba suddenly turned around and charged at Venerable Bone at a terrifying speed. Chapter 1278. Attack. What? Jean Ba is going to attack Supreme Bone. Has Jean Ba gone mad? This is the interior of the ceiling array. Supreme Bone can deprive him of his control over Yuan Qi at any time. We'd better behave. Jean Ba has gone mad. We can't be implicated. Seeing that Jean Ba had turned around and charged at Supreme Bone, the warriors in the surrounding cages changed their expressions. They did not want to get involved. However, in the 2 deepest cages, the supreme martial artist's cloudy eyes suddenly opened. There seemed to be a flash of light in them. However, this flash of light was fleeting and no one noticed it. Jean Ba, how dare you betray us? Supreme Bone stood up from the ground with a swoosh, 2 rays of cold light shooting out from his eyes. The cold light was fast and headed straight for Jean Ba. Small trick. Jean Ba's lips curled up as he said arrogantly. Although that was what Jean Ba said, his heart was very solemn. This might be the only chance to kill Supreme Bone. If he missed this opportunity, there would be no more. Since Supreme Bone dared to give up the ceiling array's control over him, it meant that he had the confidence to subdue him. He could only take a risk and sneak attack on Supreme Bone. If he succeeded, he would escape the Myriad Bone Cave. If he failed, he would die. Therefore, in order to kill Supreme Bone with one blow, Jean Ba wrapped all the Yuan Qi in a sea of consciousness around his wrist and punched at the 2 rays of cold light. Crack! Crack! In a split second, the cold light and Jean Ba's fist collided. As expected, the cold light was blown away and Jean Ba stopped where he was. So you're prepared. Jean Ba's face was gloomy and his heart sank to the bottom. He could clearly feel that the altar above his head had locked onto him. If he dared to use Yuan Qi again, the altar would definitely drop a terrifying order chain and kill him. Hee, I dare to let you out because I'm prepared. Supreme Bone smiled and said, You're not bad. I kindly gave you a chance to live, but you don't know what's good for you. In that case, go to hell. As soon as he finished speaking, Supreme Bone quickly formed a seal with both hands and began to activate the altar in midair. Whoosh! As the altar was activated, it suddenly shone brightly. Then everyone saw a waist-thick chain rush out from the altar. Its target was Jean Ba. Breakthrough with brute force. Jean Ba bent his knees slightly and punched out with both fists. What? Jean Ba is going to use his physical strength to break the chains of order. Impossible. Physical strength is limited. If it was possible, Jean Ba would have done it long ago. Why would he wait until now? Since you've decided to fight the chains of order, why don't you forcefully use your primordial qi? There is no other way. Jean Ba can't use his primordial energy. If he uses his primordial energy, the power of the chains of order will increase. When that happens, Jean Ba won't be able to survive. Pucci, as the crowd discussed, Jean Ba's fist collided with the chains of order. Not good. As soon as Jean Ba's fist came into contact with the chains of order, he felt as if he had touched something terrifying. He quickly retreated. You want to leave? You must die today. Supreme Bone's aura skyrocketed. In a short period of time, his aura had reached its peak. Peak 9th grade human supreme martial artist. After this period of recuperation, Venerable Bone's injuries had completely healed and his aura had reached the terrifying peak 9th grade human supreme realm. It's over. Jean Ba is finished. Sigh. He could have offended anyone, but he just had to offend Supreme Bone. It is said that among the 3 9th grade human supreme martial artists that Jean Ba killed, One of them had a good relationship with Supreme Bone. At that time, Supreme Bone was only one step away from becoming an Earth Supreme martial artist, so he didn't bother. I have also heard of this matter. When Supreme Bone advanced to Earth Supreme martial artist, he wanted to kill Jean Ba, but was stopped by the higher-ups. They said that Jean Ba should be temporarily imprisoned, and this imprisonment lasted for decades. A few warriors who had been captured and sent to the Myriad Bone Cave after Jean Ba's death were discussing. Your opponent is me. At this critical moment, Ningyu quickly shot out. The red demon, sword in his hand, slashed at the chains of order on Jean Ba's back. Crack! The red demon sword was of high quality. With the help of the world tree sapling, it easily cut through the chains of order. The sudden change stopped Supreme Bone from acting rashly. I didn't expect the creature in the flying sword to recover. Supreme Bone's face was gloomy. He had thought that after he recovered, he could finish off Jean Ba and Ningyu. Who would have thought that the creature in the red demon sword would recover as well? Save me, the clone key. At this moment, the warrior in the cage at the corner transmitted his voice to Ningyu again. Tree sapling, can you capture Supreme Bone's clone alive? Ningyu secretly communicated with the tree, sapling, and asked. It's not necessary to capture this clone alive. It's fine even if it's dead. The tree sapling said, you guys hold Supreme Bone off for a few minutes. I'll break the altar in the air. As soon as it finished speaking, without waiting for Ningyu to reply, the tree sapling controlled the red demon's sword and charged towards the altar in midair. Damn it! Supreme Bone's expression changed greatly when he saw the red demon's sword's actions. The altar was the key to trapping the warriors. Once the altar was destroyed, the chains on everyone's bodies would break. If the chains broke, these people would definitely escape. If the other honorables of the Myriad Bone Cave knew that he had caused such a big mess, even an Earth Supreme martial artist would not be able to escape punishment. It won't be that easy to break the altar. Supreme Bone's body blended into the void in an attempt to stop the red demon's sword. Your opponent is me. In order to buy time for the tree sapling, Ningyu had no choice but to stand in front of the red demon's sword. Go to hell. Supreme Bone was anxious. He did not want to be entangled too much with Ningyu. Therefore, he flicked his sleeves and shot out 2 beams of cold light in an attempt to force Ningyu to retreat. As long as he could prevent the altar from being destroyed, Supreme Bone had 100 ways to kill Ningyu. Supreme Bone even wanted to seize the red demon sword and refine the living creature within. Universal Palm. Flames of 10,000 beasts. Elixir Cauldron of Nothingness. Holy Flag of 10,000 spirits. Ningyu immediately used his killer move and displayed all the trump cards he had. Supreme Bone's attack was very powerful and could easily kill a 9th-grade human supreme martial artist. Ningyu knew that with his current strength, it would be difficult for him to withstand it. However, he had to withstand it. It was his duty. In an instant, all 4 of Ningyu's killer moves were neutralized by Supreme Bone. Moreover, the remaining beam of cold light was still charging straight at Ningyu. Looking at the cold light that was constantly charging at him, Ningyu's pupils shrank slightly, and he quickly retreated. There was not much Yuan Qi left in his body. Basically, there was no way he could withstand the cold light, so he had to retreat. If he did not retreat, he would definitely be killed. Combat King's Fist. At the moment of life and death, a figure suddenly appeared in front of Ningyu and blocked the fatal attack for Ningyu. Retreat quickly. After blocking the cold light, Jean Ba hurriedly said, "This cold light is very powerful. I was just able to mobilize my Yuan Qi, but it will be difficult for me to hold on for too long." All right. Ningyu was not pretentious. Jean Ba blocked the cold light for him, and he immediately retreated. Swoosh! Seeing that Ningyu had retreated, Jean Ba used all his strength to throw out the cold light. Chapter 1279. Chapter 1279. Chapter 1279. Altars. Damn it. Supreme Bone's face turned ugly when he saw that his attack was blocked by Jean Ba and was directed at him instead. Cursing inwardly, Supreme Bone flicked his wrist again and a cold light flew out. However, The power of this cold light was clearly not as strong as the previous cold light. When the two beams of cold light came into contact, Supreme Bone's attack instantly turned into nothingness. Helplessly, Supreme Bone could only bite the bullet and face the cold light. Bang! With a crisp sound, one of Supreme Bone's ribs was broken. Poochie! Supreme Bone's heart sank to the bottom as he spat out dark red blood. Initially, he had the upper hand in his battle with the red demon word. However, now that he was severely injured, his strength had dropped by 10%. He had switched from attacking to defending. Are you okay? In midair, the sapling was controlling the red demon's sword and exchanging blows with Supreme Bone. As for Ningyu, he quickly flew to Jean Ba's side and helped him up. At this moment, Jean Ba's aura was so weak that he couldn't even stand properly. In order to throw the cold light at Supreme Bone, Jean Ba used all his strength and did not hold back. The cold ray was Supreme Bone's killer move. It was already very impressive that Jean Ba could withstand it. Naturally, he had to pay a price to throw it away. It's nothing serious. Wiping the blood from the corner of his mouth, Jean Ba laughed. It's been a long time since I've had such a great battle. Ning Yu's face darkened. He was about to be killed, yet he could still say such words. He was indeed optimistic. By the way, can that red flying sword defeat Supreme Bone? Reality proved that Jean Ba was not so optimistic. He looked at the battlefield in midair and said hesitantly, "If that red flying sword can't defeat Supreme Bone, we'd better find a way to leave as soon as possible." "You have a way to leave?" Hearing Jean Ba's words, Ningyu was slightly startled as he asked. "We still have to give it a try." Jean Ba said, "I know of a secret passage. We can smoothly leave the Myriad Bone Cave from there." "This won't do. Before we leave, we must rescue the cultivator in the cage." Ningyu shook his head and said, "There's no way to save him. Unless that red flying sword defeats Supreme Bone and controls him, there's no way to open that cage." Jean Ba said, "That cage was personally set up by Supreme Bone. The key is his doppelganger. You also know that the key is Supreme Bone's avatar?" Ningyu was a little surprised. He did not expect Supreme Bone to know this secret. "Don't just stand there. Hurry up and think of a way to leave. If we delay any longer, it will be too late," Jean Ba said anxiously. "Leave? No one will be able to escape today." Just then, the Supreme Bone, who was in midair, forced the red demon's sword to retreat. Then his right hand grew several times larger and suddenly grabbed the altar. Kacha! Exerting strength in his palm, Supreme Bone squeezed the altar until it made a cracking sound. The chains of order are reinforcing it. "Stop! Supreme Bone, stop! We don't want to be enemies with you." Puffed. Just as Supreme Bone exerted strength in his palm, several low-level Supreme Martial Artists were squeezed by the chains, and their bodies exploded. As for the souls of these Supreme Martial Artists, they flew toward Supreme Bone and were swallowed by his mouth. "Not bad, not bad. You guys are delicious." After swallowing the souls of these low-level Supreme Martial Artists, Supreme Bone nodded and said, "I'll give you one more chance. Capture Ningyu and Jean Ba, or I'll swallow all of you." Whoosh! Supreme Bone's words had a very intimidating effect. The remaining cultivators in the cage looked gloomy. They wanted to attack, but were afraid of Ningyu and Jean Ba's strength. Just as everyone was hesitating, Supreme Bone exerted strength in his wrist again. 10 7th-grade Supreme Martial Artists were killed by the chains, turned into souls, and entered Supreme Bone's mouth. "You only have one chance. Don't blame me if you don't grasp it." Supreme Bone looked around and finally landed on Ningyu and Jean Ba. Raising his brows, Supreme Bone said, "I advise you to surrender as soon as possible. Otherwise, I'll let you know why flowers are red. That red flying sword of yours is so powerful that it could force Supreme Bone to this extent." Jean Ba ignored Supreme Bone's threat and said to Ningyu, "Supreme Bone knows that if the battle continues, the altar will definitely be destroyed by your red flying sword. Therefore, he wants everyone to capture you to threaten that red flying sword." Swoosh! At this moment, the red demon sword flew to the top of Ning Yu's head and hovered. "Sapling, you're not a match for Supreme Bone?" Ningyu secretly communicated with the sapling and asked in confusion. "There's something unusual in that altar that makes my heart tremble," said the sapling. "Even your heart trembles." Ningyu was shocked. This sapling was the sapling of the world tree. How terrifying would it be if it could even make him tremble? "What I mean is, with my current strength, I can only contend against that thing," said the sapling. After a brief pause, it continued. "Even Supreme Bone doesn't know what's in the altar. You want to obtain the thing in the altar?" Ningyu quickly understood what the sapling meant. "I can feel that once I devour the thing in the altar, my strength will greatly increase. I can even face an Earth Supreme martial artist without fear." The sapling nodded. "We can't destroy the altar. We must seize it." Crack! At this moment, seeing that no one was making a move, Supreme Bone exerted more force. Uffed! Another few martial artists were killed, and their souls fell into Supreme Bone's mouth. As more and more souls were devoured by Supreme Bone underwent a shocking change. Swish! Swish! Supreme Bone, who was originally a single person, split into two and turned into two Supreme Bones. The sudden change made Ningyu's mouth slightly open. He was a little dumbfounded. But soon, Ningyu discovered some clues. One of the bodies was Supreme Spirit Bone, while the other was Supreme Soul Bone. Supreme Spirit Bone had the battle strength of a peak 9th grade human supreme martial artist, while Supreme Soul Bone only had the battle strength of an 8th grade human supreme martial artist. Ha ha ha! Supreme Bone threw his head back and laughed after transforming into a doppelganger. Serial doppelganger. I've finally cultivated this technique to the extreme. Supreme Bone was very excited. He had cultivated the serial doppelganger technique, which meant that he could split his doppelganger again and again. As long as he had enough yuan, chi, or souls, he could continuously create doppelgangers. The battle strength of the doppelganger would increase along with the strength of the parent body. Sapling, how can I snatch the altar from you? Ningyu knew that he couldn't delay any longer, otherwise the consequences would be unimaginable. You fight with Supreme Bone. The sapling's words were as shocking as they could get. What? Ningyu was shocked. He was only a peak 5th grade human supreme martial artist, while Supreme Bone was a peak 9th grade human supreme martial artist. With his current battle strength, he could at most contend with a peak 9th grade human supreme martial artist. There was no possibility of him winning against a peak 9th grade human supreme martial artist. I'm not asking you to really fight Supreme Bone, but to feign an attack. Your main target is the altar. The sapling said, Supreme Bone definitely won't use his full strength when fighting you, because he has to divide his attention to guard against me. When I suddenly attack, Supreme Bone will definitely be distracted. You take advantage of that time to seize the altar and store it in your storage ring. Chapter 1280. The Demon Slayer Swoosh. The sapling did not drag his feet. He controlled the red demon's sword and brought it to Ningyu's hand. A small branch then sprang out from the red demon's sword and quietly entered Ningyu's sleeve to lie dormant. Supreme Bone, do you dare to fight me? Worried that Supreme Bone would notice something, Ningyu stepped forward with the red demon's sword in his hand and said coldly, let's fight, but you have to throw away the red flying sword in your hand. Supreme Bone's expression was gloomy as he finally said in a low voice. Supreme Bone feared the red flying sword from the bottom of his heart. Especially now that Supreme Bone had mastered the serial doppelganger skill, he was most worried that these two doppelgangers would be hurt. As long as he was given time, he could cultivate the serial doppelganger skill to the extreme and create countless doppelgangers. You want me to throw away the red flying sword? Ningyu looked hesitant. After a while, Ningyu said in a clear voice, It's not impossible for me to throw away the red flying sword, but you can't activate the altar and use it against me. Deal. Supreme Bone agreed to Ningyu's terms without hesitation. From Supreme Bone's point of view, the altar only had a restraining effect on the warriors in the cage. It did not have any real effect on Ningyu. Ningyu did not use the red flying sword, and he did not use the altar. This deal was worth it. Sapling, you can't let me down this time. Taking a deep breath, Ningyu stomped his feet on the ground, and his body rushed out in an instant. "Come at me." Seeing that Ningyu was rushing towards him, Supreme Bone shouted and punched out with his right fist. Universal Palm. Since he had decided to fight with Supreme Bone, Ningyu would not back down. His hands formed a series of signs, and in a split second, several palm prints were formed. Crash! An earth-shattering palm print separated from Ningyu's palm and surrounded Supreme Bone inside. Break! Standing tall in the encirclement of the palm prints, Supreme Bone was fearless as he dashed left and right, waving his fists back and forth. Not only did Supreme Bone attack, but even his doppelgangers kept attacking. Kacha! 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 The two venerable bones threw out hundreds of punches in an instant, and all of these punches landed on the palm of heaven and earth. Without a doubt, the hundreds of palm prints Ningyu had unleashed were quickly dispersed. Ningyu, you would die today. After dispersing the palm print, Supreme Bone's right hand suddenly enlarged and grabbed at Ningyu. You want to catch me? It won't be that easy. Ningyu retreated quickly and kept dodging, trying to avoid Supreme Bone's palm. However, Supreme Bone's palm grew larger and larger until it finally slammed down heavily on Ningyu. I'll flash. Ningyu unleashed his body movement technique to the extreme, constantly shifting his body from left to right and barely evading Supreme Bone's claw. Do you think you can dodge it? The corner of Supreme Bone's mouth curled up slightly. He then stretched out his left hand and grabbed at Ningyu from another direction, attacking from both sides at the same time, multiplying the pressure on Ningyu. Smack! Finally, Ningyu could not dodge in time and was hit by Supreme Bone's palm, flying backward. Swoosh! Janba reacted quickly and caught Ningyu firmly. Oomph! Can't even withstand a single blow. Supreme Bone glanced at Ningyu disdainfully and then said to the martial artists in the cage, "You have one last chance. Kill Ningyu, and I will let you go." I, Supreme Bone, am a man of my word. This is your last chance. If you miss this opportunity, you won't get another one. Whoosh! Seeing that Ningyu was seriously injured, the martial artists in the cage were ready to make a move. Perhaps this was the best chance to kill Ningyu. Boom! Putting down Ningyu, Janba heavily stomped his right foot on the ground, and a terrifying aura soared into the sky. He coldly said, "Whoever dares to make Ningyu your enemy will be making me your enemy. You'll have to get through me first." Cough, cough. Let me try. Suddenly, a cough resounded from a cage in the depths of the chamber. Hearing that cough, everyone's heart trembled, and they couldn't help shifting their gazes over with fear on their faces. It's Venerable Slaughter. Venerable Slaughter is a pinnacle 9th grade sovereign. I wonder if Supreme Bone will let him out. I don't think so. After all, Venerable Slaughter is powerful. If he betrays us like Janba, it will be hard for Supreme Bone to subdue him. Everyone discussed with fear on their faces. It's been years since I've been active. I can't miss this opportunity. Not long after Venerable Slayer finished speaking, a soft voice was heard from the cage next to him. Venerable Slaughter. Venerable Slaughter is also a pinnacle 9th grade sovereign. He and Venerable Slaughter are a pair of killing stars. That's right. Legend has it that the two of them were tyrannical in the Thousand Leaves Empire and killed countless people. In the end, they accidentally offended the Myriad Bone Cave's Danshi, which was the reason why they were suppressed. One Venerable Slaughter had already shocked everyone. Now that there was another Venerable Slaughter, it made everyone even more terrified. Supreme Bone did not reply immediately. He slightly knitted his brows and fell into deep thoughts. Truth be told, Supreme Bone was a little worried. After all, he was at a disadvantage, and Venerable Slaughter and the rest were enemies. Under this premise, there was a high chance that Venerable Slaughter and the rest would betray them. If two pinnacle 9th grade sovereigns betrayed them, the consequences would be unimaginable. I can let one of you go, but the other must stay inside. Supreme Bone thought of a method that could satisfy both sides. Venerable Slaughter and Venerable Slaughter had a good relationship. As long as he took one of them as a hostage, he believed that the other wouldn't dare to act recklessly. You, Venerable Slaughter, come out. Supreme Bone slapped the altar, and the chains on Venerable Slaughter broke. Ah! With the chains broken, Venerable Slaughter punched the door of the cage in front of him, shattering the cage. After leaving the cage, Venerable Slaughter was like a dragon flying out of the sea or an eagle soaring into the sky. His pair of turbid eyes became bright and spirited. Crack! Twisting his neck, Venerable Slaughter walked toward Ningyu step by step. The Demon Slayer Venerable Speed was neither too fast nor too slow. A minute later, the Demon Slayer Venerable stopped a few meters away from Ningyu. Kill yourself, Venerable Slaughter said indifferently. Fearing the red demon sword floating above Ningyu's head, Venerable Slaughter did not dare to act rashly for the time being. What a joke. If I kill myself just because you want me to, wouldn't it be embarrassing for me? Ningyu knew what Venerable Slaughter was afraid of. Fearless, he said, I have no grudges against you. Why don't we join forces to kill Supreme Bone and rescue your brother? That's a good idea. Venerable Slaughter nodded slightly and said, Venerable Slaughter, don't make a mistake. Supreme Bone scolded. Huh? How could I make a mistake? I was just teasing him. Venerable Slaughter smiled and said, Supreme Bone, let my brother go, and we'll help you kill Ningyu. Venerable Slaughter was demanding an exorbitant price. He wanted Supreme Bone to let Venerable Slaughter go as well. Let Venerable Slaughter go? Do you think I'm a 3-year-old? Supreme Bone curled his lips and said, I'll give you 3 minutes to kill Ningyu. Otherwise, your brother, Venerable Slaughter, will become my food. As he spoke, Supreme Bone slapped the altar again. Crack! Chapter 1281. Chapter 1281. Chapter 1281 Leave. Supreme Bone, I'll give you one last chance. Let go of Venerable Slayer, or I will join forces with Ningyu to deal with you. Venerable Slayer suddenly regained his composure and said calmly, What? You're giving me one last chance? Have you lost your mind? Supreme Bone's expression was exaggerated when he heard Venerable Slayer's words. He said coldly, If you dare to act rashly, Venerable Slayer will definitely die. Although Supreme Bone said so, he did not continue to torture Venerable Slayer. The current situation was very clear. Venerable Bone, Venerable Demon Slayer, and Ningyu were the strongest experts in the Myriad Bone Cave. The three parties restrained each other, and no one dared to act rashly. This balance was delicate. Once it was broken, the entire secret chamber would fall into a war. Who would live and who would die would be unknown. Ningyu, hurry up and take back the altar before it's too late. The sapling's voice rang in Ningyu's ears. Ningyu was slightly startled when he heard this. He then said, How do you want me to take back the altar now? I have the lowest cultivation and the weakest strength here. I'll only be courting death if I go there. Ningyu did not want to be the one to break the balance. Whoever broke the balance among the three parties first would most likely be besieged by the other two parties. Not to mention being besieged by two forces, even if one of them attacked Ningyu. Ningyu wouldn't be able to resist. Ningyu's trump card was the sapling. If the sapling did not make a move, he would be in danger. Fight! Obviously, the sapling knew the seriousness of the problem. He pondered for a moment, then gritted his teeth and said, I'll stir up trouble. You take advantage of the chaos to take back the altar. You want to stir up trouble? Ningyu was a little puzzled. The altar was firmly held by Supreme Bone. How could the sapling stir up trouble and create chaos? Swoosh! At this moment, the sapling controlled the red demon sword and suddenly dashed out. The red demon sword did not attack Supreme Bone, but charged at Venerable Slayer. F***CK. Ningyu could not help but swear. Was the sapling not supposed to attack Supreme Bone? What was the use of him fighting with Demon Slayer Venerable? Venerable Bone would only watch from the sidelines. Courting death. The Demon Slayer Venerable snorted coldly when he saw a flying sword flying towards him. He clenched his right hand into a fist and punched out. What? The Demon Slayer Venerable wants to use his fist to resist that blood-red flying sword? That flying sword was evenly matched with Supreme Bone. Is it the demon slayer, Venerable, afraid of losing his fist by doing this? It's hard to say. Legend has it that the demon slayer, Venerable, cultivated a spell that made his fists extremely hard, so hard that even an Earth sovereign couldn't do anything about it. Oh my God! Before the last cultivator could finish his sentence, his eyes widened and his face filled with disbelief. Kacha! Ah! In midair, the red demon sword unleashed its might and chopped down the demon slayer Venerable's fist. A crisp voice echoed in the chamber along with the cries of the demon slayer, martial lord. In an instant, everyone quietened down. How is this possible? The demon slayer Venerable looked down at his fist that was chopped off and roared, I've cultivated the Vajra secret technique to the extreme. How could you chop off my fist? Swoosh! The sapling ignored the demon slayer Venerable and charged out with the red demon sword again. Relatively speaking, the red demon sword was much faster this time. Kacha! Another crisp voice rang out. This time, everyone could no longer remain calm. The fact that the red demon slayer martial lord's fist was enough to prove how extraordinary the flying sword was. Ah, you dare to chop off my palm. No one has ever dared to do this to me. Today I'll... The demon slayer martial lord let out a hysterical roar. However, the roar left as quickly as it came. The red demon sword moved for the third time. The sapling had chopped off one of the demon slayer martial lord's palm the first 2 times. The sapling did not hold back for the third time. He squeezed out a drop of liquid from his body and smeared it on the red demon sword. Buzz! The red demon sword vibrated slightly before it landed on the demon slayer martial lord's neck under everyone's shocked gazes. Boom! At that moment, the entire area fell silent. The silence was abnormally frightening, and the oppressive atmosphere was suffocating. Gulp! Apart from the people in the cage, even Supreme Bone swallowed a mouthful of saliva. The power of that flying sword is so strong. Supreme Bone finally felt a little fear deep in his heart. In Supreme Bone's opinion, his strength was only slightly stronger than the Demon Slayer Martial Lord. If the Red Demon Slayer Martial Lord could be easily killed by the Red Demon Slayer, it would definitely be able to kill him. I have to find a way to leave as soon as possible. Supreme Bone's expression was gloomy as he thought about how to leave. Ningyu, what are you waiting for? Hurry up. In an instant, Ningyu felt a sharp pain in his eardrums. Do it. Ningyu is not a hothead. He reacted quickly. Here was his chance. This was a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. Supreme Bone was slightly distracted by the sapling's powerful strength. It was the best time to strike now. Law of Space. Ningyu secretly communicated with the Law of Space, and his body quietly blended into the void. As Supreme Bone was thinking about how to leave, and Ningyu had concealed himself with the Law of Space, Supreme Bone did not notice that Ningyu had disappeared. Universal Palm. In order to get close to Supreme Bone as soon as possible, Ningyu did not hesitate to burn his blood essence to increase his speed. In an instant, Ningyu suddenly tore the void apart and appeared in front of Supreme Bone. His right hand turned into a palm and slammed towards Supreme Bone's cheek. Chi-Chi. The power of Ningyu's palm was so strong that even the void was blasted apart. Oh no! Supreme Bone was indeed Supreme Bone. His reaction was very fast. As soon as Ningyu's palm blasted out, Supreme Bone reacted and immediately threw the altar to the other side. He clenched his right hand into a fist and slammed it toward Ningyu's palm. Bang! As the fist and palm collided, Supreme Bone instantly realized the problem. Supreme Bone, lend me the altar. Ningyu suddenly turned around and rushed toward the altar. Without stopping by the side of the altar, Ningyu immediately kept the altar into his storage ring with a thought. After keeping the altar, Ningyu knew that Supreme Bone would be furious. Therefore, he did not stay where he was and rushed toward the red demon's sword in a flash. Janba, come with me. As he passed by Janba, Ningyu did not stop but left a message. After all, Janba had helped him before. It was only right and proper for him to save Janba's life. Swoosh! Janba was very smart. He knew that if he stayed any longer, he would definitely be killed by Supreme Bone. Therefore, he followed closely behind Ningyu and rushed out quickly. Enter the secret chamber in front. As he passed by the red demon's sword, Ningyu grabbed it. At the same time, the sapling's voice rang in Ningyu's ears. Ningyu did not dare to stay any longer. He rushed toward the deepest secret chamber according to the sapling's instructions. Although he did not know what was in the secret chamber, Ningyu chose to believe in the sapling. How dare you steal my altar? Chapter 1282. Chapter 1282. Chapter 1282. Stall for time. There's definitely something fishy going on. After a few roars, Supreme Bone completely calmed down. Such calmness was a little scary. Puff! Supreme Bone forced out a drop of blood essence and used it to set up a small voice transmission formation. Supreme Bone spoke a few words into the voice transmission formation and then quietly waited for the other party's reply. For Supreme Bone, waiting was torture. He paced back and forth in the secret room, looking very impatient and restless. Kacha! In order to alleviate this uneasiness, Supreme Bone killed several warriors in the cages and devoured their souls. After devouring the souls of these warriors, Supreme Bone's avatar was strengthened again. Take back the altar or die. Suddenly, a reply came from the other end of the sound transmission formation. The 7 short words had a special magical power that made Supreme Bone tremble all over. Supreme Bone knew very well that the other party was not joking. If he couldn't take back the altar, the other party would probably destroy this clone of his, and even his main body would be implicated. Ka-ka! Supreme Bone clenched his fists, making cracking sounds. Things started because of him, so he had no choice but to get back at them. I'll start with you guys. Taking a deep breath, Supreme Bone walked toward the nearest cage. Poochie! Supreme Bone clenched his right hand into a fist and punched the martial artist, causing him to explode. Soul force gushed out from this martial artist's body, wanting to escape from this region. With Supreme Bone around, how could he possibly escape? Supreme Bone opened his mouth wide and swallowed the martial artist's soul. I can kill all of these people and increase the strength of my soul avatar. Supreme Bone felt that it might not be too much of a loss today. That was because there was a high chance that he could raise his avatar's strength to the pinnacle 9th grade sovereign realm. Of course, everything was built on the premise that he could recapture the altar. If he couldn't take back the altar, everything he was doing now would be for naught. Take back the altar as soon as possible. A cold voice came from the sound transmission formation again. Upon hearing this figure, Supreme Bone shuddered. He had forgotten that the sound transmission formation was still open. On the other side of the sound transmission formation, there was an extremely powerful pill puppet. Supreme Bone could clearly sense the anger in the other party's tone. If he could not take back the altar, he would most likely implicate the 10,000 Bone Cave. Die, all of you! Supreme Bone could not care less. He had seen the Red Fiend in action and knew the Red Fiend's strength. If he wanted to fight against the Red Demon's sword, he had to raise his soul avatar's strength to the peak of the 9th grade sovereign realm. Otherwise, he wouldn't be able to fight against the Red Demon's sword, even if he fought his way into the deepest secret chamber. Poo-pu-pu. Outside the secret chamber, Supreme Bone killed the martial artists in the cages one by one and devoured their souls. Inside the secret chamber, Ningyu saw a familiar face. Dark Emperor. Ha ha! Ningyu, I knew you would come to save me. You really didn't disappoint me. When he saw Ningyu enter the secret room, the Dark Emperor was first stunned, and then he said, "Save me quickly. I've been trapped here for a long time." Kacha! Kacha! Ningyu stomped on the ground and leaped, cutting off the chains on the Dark Emperor's body. Tell me quickly, did you rob the 10,000 Bone Cave clean? This is the deepest part of the 10,000 Bone Cave. Since you could come here, you must have gotten rid of the elixir puppets in the 10,000 Bone Cave. Give me something good. I want to recover to my peak as soon as possible. After breaking free, the Dark Emperor said hurriedly. Ningyu was speechless. The Dark Emperor was still the Dark Emperor. He had not changed much. I'm going into seclusion to refine the things in the altar in the storage ring. You guys protect me. No matter what, don't let Supreme Bone break in. Ningyu opened his mouth and was about to say something, but the sapling's words rang in his ears. Seclusion. Ningyu frowned slightly and said, "How long will it take? Also, how powerful will your combat strength be after refining the things in the altar?" "At least half an hour, at most a month," the sapling said. Ningyu's face darkened, and he was speechless for a long time. "If you need a month to recover, then what difference is there between us staying here and seeking death? Sapling, in my opinion, we should leave the 10,000 bone cave as soon as possible. It's not safe here." Ningyu began to communicate with the sapling and said, "With our strength, there is no way we can resist Supreme Bone." As he spoke, Ningyu stopped. I. Ningyu immediately cursed, because Ningyu realized that the sapling had stuck its entire body to the altar and was starting to refine it. "What's wrong?" Seeing Ningyu's appearance, the Dark Emperor was confused. The Dark Emperor still did not know that the sapling had developed intelligence. He thought that Ningyu had lost his mind. "Nothing. I'm worried about Supreme Bone. He's still outside." In front of Jean Ba, Ningyu did not want to mention the sapling, so he said so. "What are you afraid of? With me here, I don't think that Supreme Bone would dare to come here." The Dark Emperor said proudly. "You dog, you sure are optimistic. Supreme Bone is a peak 9th grade human supreme. You want to go against him? Go home and cultivate for a few more years." As the Dark Emperor was in a miserable state, and his aura was even weak, Jean Ba did not recognize his true identity. "What? A peak 9th grade human supreme?" The Dark Emperor was shocked. If it was in the past, the Dark Emperor would definitely refute if someone spoke to him like this. But now that there was a peak 9th grade human supreme outside, the Dark Emperor had to clarify. "Of course it's a peak 9th grade human supreme." Glancing at the Dark Emperor, Jean Ba said to Ningyu, "This secret chamber is not safe. I think Supreme Bone will be here soon. We need to come up with a countermeasure." "What countermeasure?" Ningyu wanted to hear Jean Ba's opinion. "Protect me. I'm going to execute a secret technique. Once it succeeds, I will have the combat strength of a peak 9th grade human supreme," Jean Ba said. Without waiting for Ningyu's reply, Jean Ba found a place to sit cross-legged and started executing the secret technique. Ningyu was completely speechless. It was one thing for the sapling to go into seclusion, but Jean Ba, an 8th grade human supreme, also wanted to go into seclusion. It was too unkind of them to push all the problems to him. "Ningyu, what are we waiting for here? Let's get out of here." The Dark Emperor said, "Even if you and I join hands, we might not be able to withstand a full blow from a peak 9th grade human supreme. What are we staying here for? Are we courting death?" In the Dark Emperor's heart, a peak 9th grade human supreme was not invincible, but they couldn't defeat it at their current state. Unless he and Ningyu advanced to the 6th grade human supreme, they would definitely die if they stayed here. Besides, it's too late. With a soft sigh, Ningyu said, "Supreme Bone has already raised his soul doppelganger to the peak 9th grade human supreme. Moreover, it will be very difficult for us to leave the secret chamber. Now that things have come to this, we can only fight." Ningyu flicked his sleeves and summoned the corpse puppet from his storage ring. Chapter 1283. Crippling 1. The corpse puppet was a late phase 9th grade sovereign, and, at the same time, it was Ningyu's trump card. Ningyu knew that he would definitely encounter danger in the Myriad Bone Cave, and might even encounter an Earth Sovereign. Originally, when he saw the Venerable Bone, Ningyu's first reaction was to bring out the corpse puppet, but he forcefully endured it, because Ningyu firmly believed that there was an Earth Sovereign in the Myriad Bone Cave. His trump card, the corpse puppet, could only be used after meeting an Earth Sovereign. However, the current situation did not allow Ningyu to think too much. He could only bring out the corpse puppet and hope that it could resist the Venerable Bone. Dark Emperor, retreat first. Leave this to me. After bringing out the corpse puppet, Ningyu said in a solemn voice, "If necessary, enter the storage ring." Boom. Before Ningyu finished his words, the stone door of the secret chamber was heavily bombarded, emitting a crisp sound. Venerable Bone. Ningyu's face turned completely dark. When he entered the secret chamber, the sapling had laid out a small-scale array. Back then, the sapling had mentioned that he could use a small-scale array to obstruct the Venerable Bone for a few minutes. However, judging from the frequency of the stone door shaking, it would take at most a minute for the stone door to be blasted open. Ningyu, you can't escape. You'd better surrender. Otherwise, I'll refine you into a puppet, and you won't be able to reincarnate for eternity. Outside the secret chamber, the Venerable Bone and his doppelganger constantly bombarded the stone door. Every time they did so, the stone door would violently shake. Venerable Bone, I want to negotiate with you. Ningyu knew that his main objective was to stall for time and not to fight with the Venerable Bone. Taking a deep breath, Ningyu said in a clear voice, "It's not impossible if you want the altar. Let's sit down and have a good talk. I might even return the altar to you. TSK, TSK. No matter what you say, I'll kill you today." An eerie voice resounded from the Venerable Bone's mouth. "Unless you come out now, you won't be able to escape the fate of being refined into a puppet." "All right." Inside the secret chamber, Ningyu gritted his teeth and said, "Take a few steps back. I will open the secret chamber." To be honest, Supreme Bone was a little confused when he heard Ningyu's words. Had Ningyu lost his mind? He actually wanted to take the initiative to open the secret chamber. I must be extremely careful. After some thought, Supreme Bone felt that Ningyu must have a backup plan. He took 2 steps back and said, "Come out." Creak. The heavy stone door was slowly pushed open from the inside. Ningyu slowly walked out, the red demon sword in his hand. Ningyu walked very slowly. It took him 1 minute to walk the distance of 10 steps. Another minute. Ningyu was secretly delighted, but he did not show it. If Supreme Bone knew what Ningyu was thinking, it was unknown how he would feel. Throw away the flying sword in your hand. Supreme Bone's expression was gloomy and uncertain. Finally, he pointed at the red demon's sword and said, "Then open your mind and let me control you." Ding! Ningyu tactfully threw the red demon's sword aside. At the same time, he raised his hands above his head and said, "Supreme Bone, I've already opened my mind. You can come over and control me now." What the hell is he doing? The calmer Ningyu appeared, the more careful Supreme Bone was. Having been fooled once, Supreme Bone did not want to be fooled a second time. "Soul Doppelganger, go over and control him," Supreme Bone said after a moment of silence. Swoosh! The Soul Doppelganger also possessed the combat power of a 9th-grade peak human supreme martial artist. Its figure flashed and flew out quickly. Oh no! The reason why Ningyu appeared calm was entirely to buy time. Now that Supreme Bone had sent his Soul Doppelganger to test Ningyu, Ningyu naturally would not stand there foolishly. Hurriedly grabbing the red demon sword on the ground, Ningyu rushed toward the secret chamber. Ningyu was very fast. In order to enter the secret chamber before the Soul Doppelganger, Ningyu did not hesitate to burn his life to increase his speed. Swoosh! In an instant, Ningyu turned into a shadow and disappeared from Supreme Bone's sight. After Ningyu disappeared, the Soul Doppelganger stopped at the same spot, its head only half a foot away from the stone door. This is my chance. Opposite the stone door, Ningyu felt that his chance had come. He first broke the array set up by the sapling, and then kicked the corpse puppet out. Oh no! Retreat quickly. Supreme Bone should have been very excited after the stone door opened. However, when he saw a figure flying toward his Soul Doppelganger, his expression changed drastically, and he said hurriedly, "Set up the array." Inside the secret chamber, Ningyu waved his hands repeatedly and set up several arrays at the door in an instant, firmly surrounding the secret chamber. Rumble! At this moment, Ningyu mobilized the soul force in the consciousness of the corpse puppet, controlling the corpse puppet's body to expand rapidly and finally explode with a loud bang. The corpse puppet was a 9th-grade peak human supreme martial artist, and its self-destruction was extremely powerful. Supreme Bone Soul Doppelganger was the closest to the corpse puppet, so it suffered the greatest impact and was the most terrifying. Almost in an instant, Supreme Bone Soul Doppelganger was blasted into pieces. As for Supreme Bone himself, he was also blasted back several feet and slammed heavily against the wall of the secret chamber. The self-destruction of a ninth-grade peak human supreme martial artist was extremely terrifying. Fortunately, Ningyu controlled the aftermath of the corpse puppet's self-destruction. Otherwise, the entire secret chamber might have been destroyed. What a pity. If I had a way to leave, I would definitely give Supreme Bone a big one. Ningyu felt a little regretful. He dared not let the corpse puppet self-destruct. After all, he was also in the secret chamber. Although there was a wall and some small arrays blocking the way, the power of a ninth-grade peak human supreme martial artist self-destruction was no joke. It was enough for Ningyu to be able to destroy Supreme Bone's soul doppelganger. After all, Ningyu did not want to perish together with Supreme Bone. Arg, I'm so angry. Outside the secret chamber, Supreme Bone was so angry that his nose was crooked. It was not easy for him to raise the strength of his soul doppelganger to the ninth-grade peak human supreme martial artist. Unexpectedly, it was destroyed by Ningyu's little trick. The chain doppelganger technique was different from other doppelganger techniques. Once the second doppelganger was destroyed, it would be very difficult to recover. Therefore, Supreme Bone was exceptionally enraged at this moment. His rage had reached its peak. Ningyu, you're finished. No one in this world can save you. Supreme Bone could not care less. He stepped on the ground and came to the stone door in an instant. Bang, bang, bang. Clenching his right hand into a fist, Supreme Bone constantly bombarded the stone door. Following Supreme Bone's bombardment, the stone door shook more and more violently. After dozens of punches, the stone door was completely blasted open by Supreme Bone. Ningyu, give me your life. After blasting open the stone door, Supreme Bone took a step out and said fiercely, "You destroyed my soul, doppelganger. I'll let you have a taste." "Why are you talking so much nonsense? I'll let you have a taste of this first." Ningyu interrupted Supreme Bone's words. With a flick of his sleeves, a cold light swept out in a split second. Chi! The speed of this cold light was so fast that it rubbed against the air and made a chi-chi sound. Humph! Since you're not using that flying sword, it means that there's something wrong with it now. Chapter 1284. Chapter 1284. Chapter 1284. Sealing the flying sword, the ignorant are fearless. Upon hearing Supreme Bone's words, the corners of Ningyu's mouth lifted into an arc. The cold light that Ningyu threw out was none other than the world tree branch that the sapling had given him. At that time, the sapling had given him this branch so that he could force Supreme Bone to retreat and seize the altar. The sapling had said that the tree branches in this world could unleash a powerful attack at the level of an Earth Supreme. Ningyu had always wanted to use it, but never had a good opportunity. There was only one branch. Now that Zhanba and the sapling were in seclusion, Ningyu needed to give Supreme Bone a full blow. Even if he could not kill Supreme Bone, he must at least make him suffer a serious injury. Not good. Supreme Bone's telepathy was extremely powerful. Before the cold light could reach him, his expression changed greatly, and he hastily retreated. However, Supreme Bone's retreating speed was obviously slower by half a beat. The branch of the world tree brought up a gust of wind and smashed into Supreme Bone's chest. At the critical moment, Supreme Bone stopped and injected his vitality into his wrist in an attempt to resist the branches. Kacha! Kacha! Unfortunately, this small branch was a branch of the world tree. It was extremely sturdy. Supreme Bone's hands were crippled as soon as they came into contact with the branch. Rumble. After continuously crippling Supreme Bone's hands, the branch blossomed with its brilliance and completely exploded. Puff! The explosive power of the branches was much stronger than the corpse puppet's self-destruction. Moreover, all the impact of the explosion was concentrated on Supreme Bone's heart, intending to pierce through it. Voila! Just as Supreme Bone was about to be killed, the void suddenly broke and a huge palm emerged from the void. His palm did not bother with Supreme Bone, but grabbed at Ningyu instead. Universe Palm. Ningyu naturally would not sit and wait for death. He gathered all the essence chi in his sea of consciousness to his wrist and blasted out a blood-colored palm print. The palm print that Ningyu blasted out was instantly smashed by the huge palm. After shattering the palm imprint, the gigantic palm pressed down, intending to crush Ningyu into pieces. Swoosh! As the gigantic palm was about to hit Ningyu, the explosion of the world tree changed direction and blasted at the palm in midair. The collision caused the space to tremble. It's that thing. As the two collided, the gigantic palm quickly dissipated between heaven and earth. However, just as it disappeared, a figure sounded in the area. Dan Mainland, Qinya Empire. The voice became softer and finally disappeared completely. Phew! The gigantic palm cracked and the sound dissipated. Ningyu slowly exhaled a mouthful of turbid air. He did not expect this. Of 10 of it, 10 yuan. 9. Fortunately, the branches that the sapling gave him were very powerful. Otherwise, this huge palm would be enough to crush him into pieces of meat. Of 2 inch 111, Ning Ning 1 bone 9 bone 137 1 the 1 bone gu 1 1 2 3 1 was 1. Ningyu's heart sank to the bottom. He had used both of his trump cards, the corpse puppet and the world tree trunk, but the crisis had not been resolved. Fight! Gritting his teeth, Ningyu extended his right hand, and the red demon sword flew into his hand. Is it really that thing? To Ningyu's surprise, Supreme Bone did not attack him immediately. Instead, his eyes dimmed as he murmured, I didn't expect it to reappear in the world after so many years. Don't worry, I won't kill you. Since you know about that thing, I'll take you away and slowly interrogate you. Then, Supreme Bone's eyes lit up, and he even laughed out loud. Supreme Bone was very excited. Originally, he would have been punished even if he had captured Ningyu and taken back the altar after such a major incident had happened in the Myriad Bone Cave. However, Ningyu knew about that thing, and he felt that his chance had come. As long as he could capture Ningyu alive, not only would he not be implicated, he might even be rewarded, allowing him to improve further. If you want to fight, let's fight. Cut the crap, Ningyu said in a low voice. Haha, don't worry, I promise I won't let you down. Supreme Bone laughed sinisterly. Is that so? At this moment, Zhanba suddenly opened his eyes, and an extremely terrifying aura emanated from his body. A peak 9th grade human supreme. Zhanba had previously said that as long as Ningyu could delay him for a certain amount of time, he could use a secret technique to raise his strength to the peak 9th grade human supreme. The aura emanating from Zhanba had reached the peak 9th grade human supreme, and was even stronger than that of Supreme Bone. Zhanba, since you're courting death, I'll fulfill your wish. Supreme Bone's eyes shot out a cold light, and he quickly dashed out. From Supreme Bone's point of view, Ningyu was nothing to be afraid of. Before the owner of the giant palm left, he had used Dan Shi's unique telepathic method to tell him to leave Ningyu and the red flying sword, and that he could kill the rest. As for the red flying sword, it had been sealed by him and was no longer in danger. Moreover, the owner of the giant palm had quietly injected a terrifying amount of vitality into his body, causing his strength to soar instantly. At this moment, Supreme Bone's combat power had increased by several times. Bang! Sure enough, after his strength had increased, Supreme Bone sent Zhanba flying with a punch. Puffed. Fresh blood spurted out, and Zhanba's pupils shrank in fear. Your strength, how can it be so strong? Zhanba could not understand how Supreme Bone's strength had increased so much. One should know that the secret technique he used consumed his life as the price. That attack just now had consumed a full 10 years of his life. The punch that was exchanged for 10 years of his life had been easily countered by Supreme Bone, and he himself had been seriously injured. If it was not for Zhanba's strong psychological endurance, he would have been scared silly on the spot. Zhanba, I've always wanted to kill you, but you have secrets on you, so the higher-ups wouldn't let me. Now, I can finally get my wish. After succeeding in one move, Supreme Bone did not continue to attack. Instead, he said, "Don't worry, I won't kill you immediately. Instead, I'll slowly torture you. I'll only kill you when I've tortured you enough." "Uft, want to kill me? Even if I die, I'll drag someone down with me." Jean-Ba spat out a mouthful of saliva and said coldly, "At most, we'll perish together." "Perish together? I'm so scared." Supreme Bone patted his chest and said, "The entire area has been set up with a forbidden formation by the experts in Danchi. It's impossible for you to self-destruct." "Supreme Bone, don't you think you're being a little too long-winded?" Suddenly, an indifferent voice rang out. Supreme Bone turned his head when he heard this. He saw Ningyu holding the red demon sword, walking toward him step by step. "Stop pretending to be mysterious," Supreme Bone said coldly. "In Myriad Bone Cave, I am the absolute ruler. Even if I stand here and let you hit me, there's nothing you can do." However, before Supreme Bone's voice faded, his mouth opened wide, and he suddenly spat out a mouthful of blood. You. Chapter 1285. Supreme Bali. Chi-Chi. As soon as Supreme Bone fell, his body rapidly shriveled and soon turned into nothingness. Devour. After the red demon sword pierced through Supreme Bone's heart, a powerful devouring force suddenly erupted and completely devoured Supreme Bone. "What should we do next?" Ningyu said in a low voice. There was a very important reason why the red demon sword could kill Supreme Bone so easily. After this period of hard work, the sapling had completely refined the contents of the sacrificial altar, and its strength had increased by leaps and bounds. In the past, the sapling's battle prowess was only at the peak of the 9th grade human supreme. But after refining the contents of the sacrificial altar, the sapling's battle prowess was close to that of a half-step Earth Supreme. Supreme Bone was only a Yuan Chi doppelganger. With the cultivation of a peak of the 9th grade human supreme, it was naturally unable to block the sapling's attack. "Leave the Myriad Bone Cave as soon as possible. I can feel a large group of experts approaching." After refining the contents of the sacrificial altar, the sapling did not become arrogant, because its keen senses had sensed something unusual. It had also sensed the giant palm that had appeared earlier, causing its heart to tremble. "All right, let's go now." Ningyu was not an indecisive person. After all, his goal in entering the Myriad Bone Cave was to rescue the Dark Emperor. Now that he had achieved his goal, Ningyu naturally did not want to stay here any longer. "Don't rush. You guys retreat first." The sapling controlled the red demon sword, which floated in midair. It said in a low voice, "There are restrictions all around. Let me break them." Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. Without another word, Ningyu immediately retreated with the Dark Emperor and Jean-Ba to the edge of the secret chamber. Whoosh. At this moment, the sapling controlled the red demon sword and suddenly stabbed out. The red demon sword stabbed towards the original exit of the secret chamber. Rumble. Before the red demon sword could reach the exit, a transparent barrier rose around the entire secret chamber. Break! The sapling forced out a drop of liquid from its body and wrapped it around the red demon sword. It then controlled the red demon sword to slash at the barrier. Crack! The barrier immediately shattered, revealing a huge gap. "Let's go." The sapling controlled the red demon sword and left the secret chamber first. Behind the sapling, Ningyu, the Dark Emperor, and Jean-Ba all increased their speed and instantly left the secret room. Supreme Bone's doppelganger has been destroyed. How can I break it? Outside the secret chamber, Ningyu stopped in front of the cage at the corner and murmured. The sapling had said that as long as he could save the martial artists in the cage, it would help him once. In the past, Ningyu did not care about this. However, when he discovered that the sapling possessed a strong combat power, he felt the need to rescue the martial artists in the cage. Kacha! Before Ning-Yu could finish his sentence, the red demon sword circled in midair and slashed at the mist within the cage. Take him and escape at full speed. The red demon sword suddenly landed in Ning-Yu's hand. At the same time, the sapling's voice rang in Ning Yu's ears. At most 3 minutes, those experts will arrive at the myriad bone cave. When Ning Yu heard that someone was coming, he did not care about anything else. He grabbed the cultivator in the cage and pushed off the ground, quickly dashing out. Rustle. At the same time, in a dense forest not far from the myriad bone cave, numerous figures rapidly streaked across the sky. The target of these people was the myriad bone cave. Puffed. However, the gray-robed elder at the front suddenly spat out a large mouthful of blood, causing the figures to instantly stop. Venerable Bali, what's wrong? Seeing the elders spit out blood, everyone revealed shocked gazes. One must know that amongst them, Venerable Bali had the highest cultivation and was the strongest. Earth Supreme. Venerable Bali was a Grade 1 Earth Supreme. He was the person in charge of this trip to the Myriad Bone Cave. Speed up. The array I set up in the depths of the Myriad Bone Cave has been broken. Wiping the blood from the corner of his mouth, Venerable Bali said, "This time, no matter what, we must find that thing, no matter the cost." What? The array set up by Venerable Bali has been broken? How is that possible? Could it be that the other party has an Earth Supreme expert? Hearing Venerable Bali's words, everyone looked at each other in shock. One must know that amongst the pill puppet, not only did Venerable Bali have a high cultivation, his attainments in arrays were also extremely profound. In terms of arrays, even some middle-rank Earth sovereigns were far from being as formidable as Venerable Bali. To be able to break the array set up by Venerable Bali meant that the other party had a middle-rank Earth sovereign. Thinking of a middle-rank Earth sovereign, these people slightly retreated. Their formation was huge. Aside from Venerable Bali, there were also quite a few half-step Earth sovereigns and several pinnacle 9th-grade Earth sovereigns. However, with so many of them together, they still weren't a match for a middle-rank Earth sovereign. Boom! Venerable Bali heavily stomped his right foot on the ground and coldly said, "What are you panicking for? The array in the depths of the Myriad Bone Cave was set up by me from afar. Its power is only 1/10 of its peak. It's nothing much if the other party can break it. The other party took so long to kill Venerable Bone's clone. From this, we can see that there are no middle-rank Earth sovereigns among them. According to my observations, the strongest among them is at most a half-step Earth sovereign. With so many of us working together, what's there to be afraid of?" As he spoke, Venerable Bali's gaze swept across everyone. Every pill puppet that was stared at by Venerable Bali subconsciously lowered their heads. Thinking about it, everyone felt that Venerable Bali's words made sense. With so many of them working together, they could even contend against a pinnacle 1st-grade Earth sovereign. There was nothing for them to fear. Those who cower will be killed. Leaving those words behind, Venerable Bali waved his hands and tore through the void. Seeing Venerable Bali leave, the remaining people looked at each other. Whoosh! Venerable Bali was a supreme expert among the pill puppets. His request couldn't be ignored. Although they were afraid, they still had to go to the Myriad Bone Cave. Their speed was extremely fast. A 3-minute journey was forcibly shortened to a minute. All of you guard this place. Don't let a single bird escape. In front of the Myriad Bone Cave, Venerable Bali pointed at a few pinnacle 9th-grade Earth sovereigns and said, "The rest, follow me into the Myriad Bone Cave." Venerable Bali's group had a powerful lineup. Pinnacle 9th-grade Earth sovereigns, half-step Earth sovereigns, and Earth sovereigns were all present. Damn it! As they passed through the 1st and 2nd layers of the Myriad Bone Cave, Venerable Bali was so angry that his teeth itched. The Myriad Bone Cave was the sacred cultivation ground of the pill puppets. Now that it was destroyed, it pained him greatly. Very quickly, Venerable Bali and the others arrived at the deepest part of the Myriad Bone Cave. Swish! Standing in front of the secret chamber in the deepest part, Venerable Bali's face completely darkened. Crack! His fists were clenched so tightly that crackling sounds could be heard. He was exceptionally furious. They were a step too late. Even though they had hurried with all their might, they were still a step too late. Since Venerable Baali did not speak, the other pill puppets did not dare to make sound. Chase. Chapter 1286. Chapter 1286. Chapter 1286. Three Rock Caves. The Three Rock Mountain was located at the border between the Danshan continent and the Xianyu continent. It was a few hundred miles long, and demonic beasts roamed the mountain. If one was careless, they would become food for a powerful demonic beast. Sha sha sha. In the depths of Three Rock Mountain, four figures quickly shot past. They rushed forward at extremely shocking speed. After running for dozens of minutes, the four figures finally stopped. Ningyu, Dark Emperor, Battle Tyrant, the Blood Demon Venerable. Looking carefully, these four cultivators were none other than Ningyu and the others. After leaving the 10,000 Bone Cave, Ningyu and the others rushed without stopping. They did not dare to linger around the 10,000 Bone Cave. Blood Demon Venerable, you said that the thing is in the Three Rock Mountain. Looking around, Ningyu frowned slightly and said, "Where exactly is it? Bring us there." Upon hearing Ningyu's words, the Blood Demon Supremacy's cloudy eyes flickered. With the help of the sapling, the Blood Demon Venerable had already recovered 10 to 20% of his strength, reaching the pinnacle of the 9th grade sovereign realm. The Blood Demon Venerable knew very well what was hidden within the Red Demon Sword, so he did not dare to act rashly. After pondering for a moment, the Blood Demon Venerable answered, "In the deepest part of the Three-Stone Mountain, there is a Three-Stone Cave. That thing is inside the Three-Stone Cave." Back then, the Blood Demon Venerable had obtained a small piece of the World Tree's branch, but unexpectedly, the news leaked out and was discovered by Dan Shi. The World Tree had a fatal restraining effect on the Pill Centipede, so the higher-ups of the Pill Centipede issued a wanted order. They had to find that small branch no matter what. Fortunately, the Blood Demon Venerable had hidden the World Tree branch in the Three-Stone Cave and used a secret technique to seal all of his memories in his sea of consciousness. As long as Damling dared to carry on the memory devouring to him, he would make the memories in the sea of consciousness all explode, so that Damling could no longer find a World Branch trunk. Fortunately, this method allowed the Blood Demon Venerable to survive. Otherwise, the Blood Demon Venerable would have long been blasted into dregs. Let's go to the Three Rock Cave. Ningyu didn't want to waste time here. What if the experts from the Pill Furnace caught up to him? On the way to escape, Ningyu communicated with the sapling. The sapling had personally admitted that there was a powerful first-grade Earth Sovereign in the Pellet Pond, and he wasn't his opponent. Thus, he had to obtain the other branch, or he wouldn't be able to avoid this calamity. Ningyu understood the gravity of the situation. He stomped on the ground, intending to head towards the Three-Stone Cave. Wait. However, before Ningyu could take more than a few steps, the Blood Demon Venerable said in a deep voice, "There are three powerful demonic beasts in the Three-Stone Caves. With our current combat power, we will only be sending ourselves to our deaths if we go over." Three powerful beasts? Ningyu was slightly startled. What are their cultivation levels? Sure show, 2 half-step Earth Sovereigns and 1 first-grade Earth Sovereign, said Blood Demon Venerable. I can't believe it. Ningyu felt a lingering fear. If it wasn't for the timely reminder from the Blood Demon Venerable, their arrival at the Three-Stone Cave would have been no different from courting death. Although the sapling was powerful, its strength was only equivalent to a half-step Earth Sovereign. It wasn't a match for a first-grade Earth Sovereign, not to mention Zhan Ba and the Dark Emperor. The two of them had yet to fully recover, so their combat power was negligible. I might have a way to lure the Three-Stone beasts away from the Three-Stone Cave, Zhan Ba said after a brief ponder. You have a way? What way? Ningyu immediately said. If they could lure the stone beast away, they would have a high chance of obtaining the World Branch in the Three-Stone Cave. At that time, the sapling would be able to refine it, and its strength would definitely increase by several levels. It wouldn't be helpless if it encountered the experts in the Pellet Pond, and it might even be able to kill all of them. Anyway, don't worry about it. Leave the 3 demonic beasts to me when we reach the Three-Stone Cave. Jean Ba didn't seem to want to talk about this matter. Since Jean Ba didn't want to talk about it, Ningyu didn't continue asking. After all, everyone had their own secrets. If the other party didn't want to talk about it would be embarrassing to ask. Could it be that Jean Ba's words didn't affect Ningyu, but the blood demon Venerable narrowed his eyes when he heard it. The most important thing now is not to guess my identity, but to quickly find the 3-stone cave. I'll help you guys lure the stone beast away. Although Jean Ba had no idea what attracted Ningyu's group in the 3-stone cave, he knew that they couldn't stay here for long. Jean Ba had tasted the means of the pellet pond. If it went as he expected, the experts of the pellet pond would definitely catch up to them soon. If they didn't work hard now, they might not have the chance later. Let's go. The blood demon, Venerable, naturally knew that the situation was dire. He stomped on the ground and was the first to charge forth. Behind him, Ningyu, Jean Ba, and the Dark Emperor did not dare to delay as they swiftly charged forth. Stop! After flying at full speed for 10 minutes, the blood demon, Venerable, stopped in a bush and raised his right hand before pressing it down. Everyone, hide your aura. Do not expose yourselves. Rustle, rustle, rustle. When Ningyu and the rest rushed over, they stopped beside the blood demon Venerable and executed a secret technique to conceal their aura. That's the 3-stone cave. The blood demon, Venerable, carefully pushed the bush aside and pointed. The 2 demonic beasts at the entrance are the stone beasts. Hearing his words, Ningyu and the rest looked in the direction that the blood demon Venerable was pointing at. Not far from Ningyu's group, there was a massive cave entrance. The cave entrance was huge, and it could accommodate hundreds and thousands of people. There were 2 massive demonic beasts lying on the 2 sides of the cave entrance. Those 2 demonic beasts were unique with their brown skin. If one didn't look closely, they would definitely think that they were 2 stones. Quasi-Earth, Sovereign Realm. Ningyu's face turned grave. Although the 2 stone beasts had concealed their aura, Ningyu's keen senses could tell that their cultivation had reached the Quasi-Earth, Sovereign Realm. Sapling, if you go all out, can you kill those 2 stone beasts? Ningyu started to communicate with the sapling to determine the strength of those 2 stone beasts. It's not impossible, but it will take a long time and consume a lot of energy. The sapling did not immediately answer Ningyu, but replied after a brief pondering. Not only were the stone beasts tough, but they could also regenerate. Unless a powerful attack was used to shatter their heads, they would be able to recover very quickly. Hearing the sapling's reply, Ningyu took a deep glance at the blood demon Venerable. The 2 stone beasts at the entrance were already terrifying, so the first grade Earth Sovereign Realm stone beast must be even more terrifying. Facing such a powerful formation, the blood demon Venerable could still place the branch of the world tree inside. One could only imagine how terrifying the blood demon Venerable was at his peak. Sapling, are you confident in controlling the blood demon Venerable? Ningyu asked in a low voice. He was a little worried. You're tuning into the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.